This is by far the scariest clip of Brittany Murphy on the internet, and I'm going to tell you why, and then I'm going to show you. Very first time I watched this, I said I do not claim negative energy from this clip. That's how bad it freaked me out. Brittany and Ashton are doing a press interview for their new movie. Ashton makes a joke about what he would wear on his wedding night. Mind you, at this time, these two are dating, so it's relevant. They're like jousting each other the whole time. But it's when he makes this comment about what he would be wearing, and then he starts laughing, that Brittany has this really interesting response. It starts off like he's going to joke around, like she has been the entire interview. She's going to make a face and be like, uh-oh, ha, and it's cheeky and it's campy and it's fun. But what happens is really frightening instead. It lasts a little too long. The reaction is a little too clearly out of her own control. And then she only snaps back into her body after he stops laughing. And I think that is very important to note. I've done deep dives on Brittany Murphy before, and even then I've been very careful to speculate on her cause of death or be accusatory in any way. But if there's any clip that would convince me that this man had anything to do with her, it's this one, because the body doesn't lie. Okay, here it is.
I might wear this outfit during the wedding day, but come wedding night, I got a different suit that I put on. You know what I'm talking about. The secret outfit.
Of Sabrina Carpenter. Fun fact about her Aunt is Nancy Cartwright. She voices Bart Simpson, and she just happens to be one of the most famous members of the Church of Scientology, which is a whole different rabbit hole I'll go into another time. Recently, Sabrina Carpenter caught a lot of flack because this photo shoot sure resembles this, which is from an old movie titled Lolita. For those who didn't know, the movie Lolita is literally about a grown man who wants to be with a child. And the rise of Sabrina Carpenter, in my opinion, is the same MO as all these pop stars. She started in Nickelodeon, like many of them start in Nickelodeon or Disney. Over time, throughout acting gigs, etc., they amass a fan base, which consists mostly, if not all, children. So if we were to assume that most of her fans, which they probably are young girls, and then you see her doing stuff like this, which she calls the Juno pose, it's really sick to think about. Here we see some one-eye symbolism from one of her early music videos. Here's her putting up some more imagery on stage. But back to the photo shoot. Remember, the original movie is about a guy who wants to be with a child, right? Well, what are the chances, guys? Sabrina Carpenter's very first acting gig was credited to her in Law & Order SVU, where she's a victim of you-know-what. So not only...
For you, music is a better business, though, than selling tickets for sports. I assume.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think music has been underappreciated. I always joke, sports, it's like a badge of honor to spend 70 grand for a Knicks courtside. They beat me up if we charge 800 for Beyonce, right? So it's a real, we have a lot of runway left, right? So when you read about the ticket prices going up, it's still, average concert price is $72. Try going to a Laker game for that. There's 80 of them or whatever the hell. So the concert is underpriced, has been for a long time.
Do you see anybody you have an interest in voting for? Hey, man. I say my prayers. I'm a spiritual person. We can't all do that, but that's what I'm doing, man. I think it's a higher power than all of it. I think it's a higher power than the government. I think it's a higher power than all of those things. And hey, the law will make a way instead of waiting some man's for vote. But what's that going to accomplish by whipping some man's for vote? Plus, if you feel that the government is doing things for you, feel like the government is helping you out, doing things for you, and has your best interest in hand, I just keep voting until I find somebody who has my interest in hand. Wait, now. You say what happens when you go pull the lever and they say, oh yeah, we count the votes in the business. Who knows what goes on, man? You don't know, but you have nothing. Hey, Chief, you have nothing to do with any of it. There's some cats that run this thing. Now I'm not doing this, and a lot of people say, oh, he's crazy, and run the vote and all that. There are a bunch of cats that run this planet, and they just wait on the higher power to handle things. Read the Bible.
Was Jeffrey Epstein a CIA agent?
Realistic explanation for Jeffrey Epstein is that he may very well have been what's known as a confidential informant, a CI, for FBI. More than a Mossad asset, more than ever a CIA asset or anything like that, because he was actively involved in illegal activity, supporting American citizens. That makes him the perfect kind of target for FBI to pursue, because FBI could grant him leniency or forgiveness for his crimes as long as he reported the crimes of other American citizens to the FBI.
How do y'all feel about this? I think she might be onto something with this one right here, though. But y'all let me know, all right?
I got multiple comments of people explaining to me why liberal pregnant women are doing the Tylenol trend. They don't even see that life inside of them as a baby yet. Many women don't even consider it alive until it's born. That's why these women have no problem putting their babies at risk, even just possibly at risk, because they don't see it as a baby.
Be wary of those who claim to speak your mind. The ones who stand as champions of the majority will be the very ones who lead you deeper into chains. They will not strike you with open force. They will guide you with the language of safety, of protection, and of belonging. And step by step, you will be walked into the technocratic order. The regime of control will not arrive with enemies at the gates. It will arrive with familiar faces, with voices you trusted. And by the time you see the bars, they will already be closed.
Bro, did you see the little doll they put in for the atomic bomb awareness?
And in a small world?
It was like a little Japanese figure that was covered in dust and like said, never forget the atomic bomb. They somehow got it into Disney, got it in the It's a Small World ride.
Disney didn't put it up.
No, Disney didn't put it up. Dude, imagine you have no idea and you're just like with your little kid and you turn this corner and there's
it's like a straight up grudge.
Yeah,
like,
right.
What that is. Dude, they should make an opposite of Disneyland where it is something like It's a Small World after all, but it's like terrible things. All these horrible moments in history.
1938. Literally call it like the saddest place on earth.
But it's like goes chronological, so you're like, oh no, we're headed to 2001, guys, let's back up.
It's a sad world after all.
Characters are like personas from tragedies. Like
there's no songs, it just screams. All the other
screams in different languages.
It's a sad world, dude.
Florida's not Portland. If you think you can go and launch attacks against ICE agents in this state, you got another thing coming. We will hold you accountable very swiftly and very severely.
The thing about Florida is they ain't playing, y'all. If you Florida around, you gonna find out. And don't get me wrong, Florida and Florida Man do be getting some of the wildest headlines, but the difference is that they get consequences and held accountable for the wild they out there doing, which is how that whole thing's supposed to work in an adult reality. I know, being an adult and living in reality are two of the main things that some of y'all seem to be deathly allergic to. But remember, it's all fun and games until you're getting beat down and butt-fucked in prison, so some of y'all might want to start acting right. I hope that helps.
Here's Glenn Prager. No relation to Dennis, but Glenn Prager, Jeffrey Epstein's investigator, Department of Justice, is being interviewed on September 8th, asked questions. And you have to see what he says about Clinton, Epstein, and Trump. Listen to this, folks.
Talk about when Epstein came out, that he was a CIA.
He was a CIA.
He wasn't. I think he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there. But he's protecting a lot of people. Because Trump's now saying it's a hoax of the case, like a hoax or something. No, you know it's not a hoax. He's been on the plane now, many times. It's just was never on the plane with kids. I've seen the interviews and I've interviewed all the officials. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids. And boom, I can't be sent for plane. Wow. Wow.
I can't be the only one to find this bizarre. What Justin Bieber posted. And I know that he knows all of the quote-unquote conspiracies about this right here. About that certain emoji that he used to cover his child's face. This is very bizarre stuff indeed. And again, you know that he knows exactly what he is doing when he does this right here. Why else would he use the emoji that he used? Why else? Ask yourself that question, because this is very, very bizarre. This is very, very bizarre.
Yo, this is crazy, y'all. I'm gonna play this video and pay attention to the guy in the black shirt on the left side. All right, you got that. Now pay attention to the guy that's in the crowd. He got a brown shirt on. Stu Peters is gonna explain it to y'all.
That's the assassin. That's the guy that pushes the detonator, which perfectly aligns with the explosion that pushes that projectile through Charlie's right side of his neck and out the left side, creating the exit wound. That might just look like the chaos that you would expect after someone was publicly executed in broad daylight in front of 3,000 people. But in no way did that traitor man, that assassin in the brown shirt with the sunglasses, act alone. We have video now that shows the handoff of this remote detonator.
Hey, hear ye. We got new Epstein files. And out the gate, I just want to say, yes, the Democrats are releasing all these Republican names. There's, like Bill Clinton and Epstein were boys. Let's just make that very clear. That doesn't change the fact that Trump and Epstein were also boys. Are you guys starting to pick up left or right? It doesn't matter. Stop fighting about that. They're all in on it together. Having said that, let's look at this. We got Andrew Farkas. Naturally party with Bill Gates. Holla at your boy. Gregory Riches. And then Elon Musk to Island. December 6th. Is this still happening? So, we got Prince Andrew on the flight manifest. That's old news, though. Oh, and would you look at that? Mr. Palantir himself. Right on, brother. You know what, Lizard Man Peter? You can put me on any watch list you want. There's one list I ain't on. It's the motherfucking Epstein list. Palantir sucked my...
Candace Owens dropped an Instagram story basically saying that Tyler Robinson, the man who was in jail for killing Charlie Kirk, is pretty much innocent. I've gotten this post sent to me like 20 times and it seems pretty urgent and time sensitive, so let's take a look. She says, I want to break this news immediately because it feels important. I think if I don't break it immediately, something bad might happen. I hope I have earned the trust of enough people to believe me when I say that I have verified this information but cannot reveal the source. She goes on to say Tyler Robinson is not the entire narrative that was placed in the media about him having been completely fictional, as are many other aspects of what we have been told. She also says his father, having turned him in after a confession, is also complete fiction. To the contrary, Tyler Robinson maintains his innocence and has never even been to the UVU campus. There are absolutely zero photos or videos that the campus can produce to the contrary, which is why they have produced nothing other than a blurry image which Tyler's family knows is not him. Tyler has never once expressed... I want to make that clear. The federal government is lying about absolutely everything other than the fact that it is his gun. Not that we needed further substantiation, but Tyler Robinson did not author those Discord messages. I would like to again stress that he has never even been to UVU campus, but, and I need to confirm this later, I believe he was around the campus on that day. I'll have more on this later, but I wanted to immediately publish that Tyler Robinson, plus dad that did the right thing after realizing his son was guilty, is a federal concoction.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you guys on a crazy weekend cliffhanger. I needed to get that information out as soon as possible. Obviously, you can probably see that I received some information, a communication, which answered a lot of questions that the public has had about the story, or rather the non-story that we are getting from the feds. The push that Tyler Robinson is this lone shooter, which they're trying to establish as a fact. Some of the burning questions that we had, okay, well, if he turned himself in, how did he also not confess? I now have the answers to that. The main point, the reason why this information came to me, is because there's a narrative being spun right now by the media that Tyler Robinson is or was. That is not true. And that's a very scary thing when suddenly they're saying, and, you know, he's in solitary, and he's not.
So that was the reason why this information urgently came to me. Obviously, I know a lot more, and I'm going to share it with you guys on Monday. I just wanted to vet some of the things that I heard, ask some more questions from people that would know, and just to make sure everything I say is above board. And obviously, this lead led to more leads, and I want to give people a chance to respond. This is crazy. Nothing more that I can say. This is very serious. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that what we are being told has gone on is just not so. And yeah, this is really kind of going to begin, I think, to answer a lot of questions and many more questions that need to be asked. So I just wanted to let you know that what they're telling us about him being is not true.
Please, order in the hall. 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 Please, order in the hall.
So Google admits to political censorship on YouTube, but promises to embrace free speech from here on out. They said that they were absolutely coerced and pressured by the Biden administration to quell talk of anything that the Biden administration didn't want people getting out there. It's also come out that Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter all dealt with the same exact type of pressures from the last administration because they wanted to have complete and total control of the narrative, and they wanted them to squash anybody who was speaking out against it. Listen, it doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. This should make you angry, and this should make you sick. This is absolutely the government trying to trample on all of our First Amendment rights. And I don't care if you agree with me or you virulently disagree with me. I will always stand up for every single American's constitutional rights. And I don't care which side is in office. If they're trying to step on our constitutional rights, it should be considered treason against the American people. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments.
Well, a deal's being made. An executive order was signed yesterday, and TikTok will never be banned again. And I already know your first question. What about the algorithm? TikTok's algorithm will be secured, operated, and retrained in the US outside of China's control. Now, I know your next question is, will I still be able to watch videos like Kin in Panama and his hunk of melted, hefty trash bags floating around in the water, or whatever the hell that guy's got going on? Yes, you will still be able to see people's videos from around the world and vice versa. So people are already nicknaming it Trump talk, but Trump said it's not just going to favor MAGA content. Every philosophy, every policy will be treated very fairly. Also, TikTok Shop seems to be up in the air. I have not read anything definitively as to what is going to happen to the TikTok Shop portion of the app. Now, ByteDance will own a minority stake of less than 20%. So the whole roster of investors has not been released yet. Also, so many people said they were going to jump ship if the algorithm didn't come with it. Are you guys sticking around?
Microsoft says it stopped providing some of its cloud and AI services to Israel's Ministry of Defense after a report in Britain's Guardian newspaper which alleged Israel used the services to conduct mass surveillance on Palestinians in Gaza and the Israeli-occupied West Bank. The Guardian report, published in conjunction with Israeli outlets Plus 972 magazine and Local Call, claimed Israel's military surveillance agency used Microsoft's Azure cloud platform to store recordings of millions of cell phone calls made by Palestinians. These calls could be played back by intelligence officers, and the Guardian cited 3 sources saying the database was used to help shape military operations in Gaza and the West Bank. Microsoft said in a statement Thursday that it had, quote, found evidence that supports elements of the Guardian's reporting. It said it had informed the Israeli Ministry of Defense that it would be halting and disabling its use of some specific subscriptions and services, and that it was taking steps, quote, to ensure compliance with our terms of service focused on ensuring our services are not used for mass surveillance of civilians. Intelligence sources told The Guardian that the Israeli surveillance agency planned to transfer the phone data from Microsoft servers to the Amazon Web Services cloud platform. Neither the IDF nor Amazon replied to The Guardian's request for comment or to our requests for comment.
General Augusto Pinochet seized power in Chile in 1973. One of his first targets wasn't just political opponents, it was the press. Because dictators know, if you control the story, you control the people. September 11, 1973, Pinochet's US-backed military coup overthrew President Salvador Allende. Within hours, radio and TV stations were shut down or seized by the army. Opposition newspapers were raided, reporters arrested, typewriters and printing presses smashed. Even carrying a camera in public became grounds for suspicion. By the end of that week, all independent broadcasting was dead. Only military-approved outlets remained. For the next 17 years, Pinochet's dictatorship enforced strict censorship. Books were banned, artists and musicians were silenced, jailed, or worse, journalists risked prison or torture for publishing criticism. Entire newspapers were permanently shut down. Even acceptable outlets practiced self-censorship just to survive. They printed only government statements, military propaganda, or economic praise while hiding mass arrests, disappearances, and executions. Pinochet didn't censor the press to protect Chile. Did it to protect the regime, to hide human rights, like workers from organizing, and to prevent the truth from ever spreading. The lesson is clear. Free speech is always the first casualty to authoritarian rule. When leaders move to silence the press, it's not about order, it's about fear.
Hey, there was no autopsy done on Charlie Kirk. Confirmed. Take a listen to this. I was trying to take a day off because honestly I feel like my mental health is... But take a listen. They're lying. By the way, the UK just put in digital social credit system. So yeah, we are people. What needs to happen for people to actually understand that everything's all right? Good weekend.
They really they did not go for an autopsy. They just took the time to the doctor's hospital. Okay, can you just do a field test? That's what, Henry? So we just had a stuff for the case documenting that there was an autopsy basis in I need an officer with Nuggets Hospital to come stay in the emergency room bay. Charlie's wife is coming to the picture and bring her. Charlie's wife is coming to land a signature, he said. Sir, and Jesse's gonna go to Chelsea right now and pick up a car for her. Okay, I'm a little confused. Before he just said.
Ohio just told its citizens to mind their business legally. So starting September 29th, a brand new law goes into effect in Ohio. It shields lawmakers' emails and text messages from any public record requests for 2 whole years. That means if your state rep in Ohio is cutting shady deals, if they're texting lobbyists, if they're pushing something through that affects you and your family, you don't get to see it. Not until years later when it's too little too late. Now think about it. You pay these people's salary. You fund the state house. You give these people authority to pass laws over your life. When it comes time for you to see what they're actually doing, Ohio said, nope, it's not none of your business. Critics are already warning that this shields the entire legislative process, including potential corruption or even criminal activity. And they're right, because how can you hold somebody accountable if you can't even see the receipts? Transparency is supposed to be the bare minimum in a democracy. But Ohio just ripped that away. And if it happens in Ohio, much like most Republican laws, they're going to put it in place in other states too. Wake up, Ohio. Pay attention to your elected officials, because the less you demand, the more money they hide. What do y'all think? Do you think lawmakers' emails and texts should be shielded from the public? Should we have a right to transparency since we're financing everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you live in Ohio, because this is hitting very close to you because it's home.
Guys, what we just saw happen to Israel today at the UN summit will be looked back on for years. So as we see from videos, Benjamin Netanyahu, he goes up to the podium to address the room. But before he could even start speaking, dozens of delegates, they start walking out of this room in protest, leaving him to give his speech to a largely empty room. Now, there were some cheering, there was some applause, and they were pretty loud as well, but they predominantly came from the gallery right at the back of the room rather than the main floor. Now, the gallery, for those who don't know, is predominantly made up of observers, the special guests, and the media. Now, when he actually started giving his speech, the IDF all the way back in Israel, they used loud speakers, like these things are huge, and they put them on trucks and they blasted what he was saying into Gaza. In fact, Netanyahu even claimed that the Israeli intelligence, they had hacked smartphones of people in Gaza and they would stream his speech to them directly. Now, we don't know if that was successful or not, but another really interesting thing about this whole situation is the really strange route that he took to get to New York from Israel. Because instead of going the shortest route over Europe, the UK, France, Spain, Ireland, he actually added an additional 663 kilometers onto the trip, which is about 2 hours, and avoided flying over those countries. Now, there's only speculation. We don't have confirmation of this, but the speculation is that these countries are part of the International Criminal Court, which does have an active arrest warrant out for him. Now, Netanyahu, he firmly denies that this was the reason that they took that route.
Y'all, at the UN General Assembly, they all walked out on Netanyahu when he came in, and we got a crazy update on the Kirk case. And I do mean crazy. Wait till you hear what the Utah Dispatcher said. This might change everything. But first this, y'all need to watch this. So he went to talk, and they all left just about. And this is right after Trump came out and said, you better leave the West Bank alone.
And we'll take a speech, we'll listen to it here, and have an analysis for you on the other side.
Please order in hold. Please order in hold.
Everyone, even the president, is saying enough is enough. And complete 100,000% unrelated, no idea why everyone's so mad at Netanyahu, the update y'all are here for. A death certificate signed at the hospital, no autopsy was done. Allegedly, that's what the dispatcher says.
A request, they emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital. Okay, can you just do a deal code on saying that? That's what can I? Can you just add a front to the case documenting that there was no autopsy? And I need an officer at Nuggets Hospital.
This image of 3I Atlas confirms it's not a comet, stunning researchers worldwide.
An enormous object is speeding past planets in our solar system at impossible speed. This thing is massive, glowing, and following a perfect path that looks more like a planned mission than a random rock floating through space. Harvard professor Avi Loeb is making bold claims that this could be alien technology. Could this be a spaceship scouting our solar system? Is it connected to Oumuamua? And are we ready for what this could mean for humanity? Alien object racing toward Earth. This object, called 3I Atlas, was traveling at over 130,000 miles per hour through our solar system. That speed is so amazing that you could fly from New York to Los Angeles in just over 1 minute if you could somehow catch a ride. But speed was only the beginning of what made this visitor so mysterious and potentially frightening. Within 24 hours of its discovery, NASA experts confirmed what many suspected, but few wanted to say out loud. 3I Atlas had come from somewhere far beyond our solar system, crossing the vast emptiness between stars where no human spacecraft had ever traveled. The object was moving so fast that even our sun's massive gravitational pull couldn't trap it in orbit, meaning it would eventually shoot back out into the cosmic void unless something deliberately slowed it down. But here's where things get really disturbing. This wasn't some small chunk of ice and rock like most visitors from space. Early measurements suggested 3I Atlas could be anywhere from 6 to 9 miles across, making it comparable in size to Manhattan Island. Imagine looking up at the night sky and seeing something the size of an entire city racing overhead at speeds that defy understanding. Harvard professor Avi Loeb looked at all this data and reached a conclusion that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. According to Loeb and his research team, 3i Atlas might not be a natural object at all. Instead, we could be witnessing humanity's first confirmed encounter with technology created by an intelligent alien civilization. If he's right, then something from another star system has been traveling through space for thousands of years specifically to study us, and we have no idea whether their intentions are
I need to show you something, and I want to know what you think about it. Was this just a joke, or was there some truth in it? So take a look, and we're going to talk.
I'm Curry, and there are aliens.
So that was a video clip of Dr. Malcolm Curry, a man with serious credentials, literally saying, yes, there are aliens. He was the former Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. He worked with Ronald Reagan, a senior leader at Hughes Aircraft, and later CEO of Delco Systems. His office walls are clearly stacked with awards and recognitions from decades of work at the highest levels of defense and aerospace. So when this man casually confirms the existence of aliens, it does make people stop and listen. But here's where it gets tricky. So that video was actually filmed 17 days before Dr. Curry passed away on April 18th of 2021. It was uploaded to YouTube on April 1st, April Fool's Day, and was touted as just a prank. So why would Dr. Curry say that? There are a few main possibilities. Let's talk through them. So he could have been just humoring the joke. He may have simply been going along with whomever was filming him and giving a playful answer without any serious intent behind it. Or calculated timing. So close to the end of his life, some speculate he may have felt freer to say something like that he knew about, but would be able to be brushed off as a joke amid like a nod, wink, wink. Or was there some slip of truth in humor? So sometimes high-level figures will reveal things indirectly using humor or offhand comments, especially about sensitive topics. It leaves room for plausible deniability, but it still plants that seed. Whichever way it may be interpreted, the timing, the context, and the stature of the man saying it does make that clip interesting. And keep in mind the timing. 2021 was a huge year within the UFO UAP world. There was a task force report released. There was leaked Navy UAP footage released. There was a 60 Minutes huge big special on UAP phenomenon. So there was a ton going on. So was it just a joke? Was it a deathbed hint? Or a casual confirmation that most people would write off? Let me know what you think. Was Dr. Curry joking, or was there more to these words? Let me know.
Imagine going to a wedding full of people only to realize that these right here are not humans like us, and you're basically trapped in a room full of jinns. That's exactly what happened to this woman right here. Her name is Nora, aka the Beyonce of Kuwait. Yes, this story takes place in Kuwait, by the way. Nora was basically a famous singer there, okay? Her and her band used to sing traditional stuff in weddings. Another way to say it, she was like a celebrity there, okay? You call her for your marriage, she comes, she sings, and then she leaves with money. You're probably like, okay man, this sounds like an amazing job. I mean, imagine going to a marriage, having fun, people recognize you, people are a fan of you, and you get money for singing a couple of songs. No, it was amazing until a terrifying thing happened to her and made her quit her job and be traumatized forever. Now, before I tell you what happened, you know what to do. Save this video and come back to it at night so it's more enjoyable. But one day, Nora got a call. She was like, man, should I pick up? I don't really work today. You know what? Let's pick up the phone. Hello? Oh, the person calling her was a woman, okay? And she basically said, hello? Is this Nora? The famous Nora? Oh, Nora basically responded, oh yeah, thank you so much. That's me, the famous Nora, yeah. The woman on the phone basically said, oh my god, thank you so much for responding. Everybody loves you here. Can you please show up to my daughter's wedding tonight? But this is when Nora responded, oh, I'm sorry, like, I don't work today. I'm really sorry. The woman on the phone started begging her, okay? She was like, please, this is my only daughter. Can you please show up tonight? She loves you so much. When Nora heard this from the woman calling, she was like, oh my god, these people are annoying. Okay, you know what? I'll make an exception for you. I want to see your daughter happy tonight. Oh, Nora ended up accepting, okay? The woman gave her the address and she told her to come, her and her band at 10 p.m. Well, Nora and her band finally made it to the house at 10 p.m., okay? And before even entering, Nora was like, okay, I'm sorry, I did bring you here, but come on. I know that nobody works today, but we gotta do it for the love of the game. Her band basically responded, oh, come on, don't sweat it, Nora. You know, we want to make people happy, right? It's only a marriage after all, right? Nora and her band finally made it inside the house, and the first thing they noticed is that the house from the outside looks normal, right? But from the inside, it's something. Their house was really bigger than they expected, okay? And the decor was really noticeable, okay? Somebody did their job on the decor. You know, Nora and her band were amazed. They were like, wow, this is by far the biggest house we perform in. While the band was examining the inside, the woman came. Remember the woman who told her to come here in the first place? The woman who begged her to show up for her daughter, blah, blah, blah. Yes, she came. She was like, oh my god, Nora, I'm a big fan. And you know, she wanted to shake her hand. When Nora saw her, she was like, oh, what's up? How are you? Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. This is your daughter's wedding? Yeah, I'll tell you, it's about to be amazing. She shook her hand. Nora noticed something, okay? The woman's hand was dry, okay? And it was not moving. You know how humans' hand move? Her hand was not moving, and she could feel her bones. When she felt that, she started having a little doubt, okay? She was like, okay, I've never seen something like this before. I mean, okay, you know what? I'm not judging. And she was not trying to scare her band either. So she was like, okay, to the woman she was speaking, she was like, where do we perform? The woman responded, you see, we love you so much. We do appreciate you so much for coming. So we prepared everything. You do perform in that corner over there. You see it? Yeah. Well, Nora responded, oh, okay, that's really sweet. You know, thank you so much. Let's go over there. Yeah, okay, we'll see you there. In this corner right here, Nora and her band started performing, okay? And what a performance. Everybody was loving it. Everybody was shaking their heads, vibing like, Nora and her band while singing, they were feeling the energy. They were like, yeah, okay, that's what we're talking about. That's the type of vibes we like. You know, keep... See, while singing, Nora noticed a detail that she could have noticed from the beginning, but she didn't for a reason. It's almost like it was hidden from her. Why is everybody dressed in old clothes? Well, nobody was dressed in the typical wedding clothes of today, if you know what I mean. Everybody was dressed like the 17th century. So Nora was like, what the hell is going on? Nora told herself, okay, that's weird. You know, she kept singing. She was still giving some side eyes, but you know, she kept singing. I don't know the song she was singing. I wasn't there with her, but she was singing something like, I'm alone in the shame. What? I'm alone in the shame, Let me say. See, meanwhile, Nora was singing. One of her band members started tapping her shoulder, and she's trying to communicate but sing at the same time. She was like, the band member was trying to get her attention, was the one playing guitar, okay? And he was like, look at their legs. Look at their legs. Nora was like, what do you mean their legs? Shape of, yeah. This is what Nora saw. Goat legs. And she understood that from the beginning she was not with humans. Yo, she's singing with jinns. You don't know what a jinn means, scary creature. I talked about him in my first post. Go check it out. But when Nora saw this, she was in shock. But she kind of knew that something was wrong from the beginning, Remember when she shook hands with the woman who invited her? Yo, in that moment, she felt that something was not right. So Nora and her band kept performing, okay? They were not trying to get suspicious. But their voices kept getting low, and they started thinking about this. Those are jinns, but they're in human forms. And while thinking about this, they noticed something. It's midnight. One of her band members was like, hey, yo, Nora, we should go. The vibe switched off. It's not the same anymore. These things right here are not even dancing. They're jumping and making weird noise. It's scaring me. It's midnight. We should go. He said all that, keeping his voice low. It doesn't matter because he's playing an instrument, so nobody's hearing it. Problem is, in Nora's case, she can't talk. She's literally singing. And this is where she had to step up, talk to some of the jinns, and told them that we should get a break. Oh, the woman who invited her in the first place, the jinn, came and she was like, Nora, I heard that you want a break. Is that true? Nora basically responded, yeah, it's hot out here, and we're kind of tired, so can we go in that room, please? Rest for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. The jinn basically responded, yeah, you can go. Oh. Now the band went to a small room, closed the door, and they're finally isolated from the rest. This is where Nora was like, nobody is getting out. I don't care. You see these creatures, they're turning crazy right now. It's past midnight, so they're turning crazy. Nobody's getting out unless you wanna. Band members basically responded, bro, do you want us to be stuck here forever or what? We should get out. Nora basically responded, look, the woman invited me at 10 p.m., right? I don't think that's a coincidence. She invited me because she can only show up in this form at night. Look, what I'm trying to say is we pretend to be playing and singing until the sunrise. Once the sunrise, boom, we get out. We don't look back. Now, the band came back to the main room and they are forced to sing and play instruments. But things kept getting worse. Because some of the jinns not only started making weird noises and jumping, they started tearing their hair with a part of their skull and throwing it down on the floor. Imagine the band playing, seeing, being forced to see all this stuff happening in front of them, but they can't do anything about it. Now, they kept playing for about 5 hours straight, and some of the band members started feeling sick and they started throwing up, after all they saw. As soon as the clock hit 4 a.m., meaning sunrise, every jinn stopped. They literally stopped moving. After that, they stopped moving, the lights started turning off, and the place started falling apart. This is where Nora was like, okay, this is our sign to go. For a long run in the hallways, they made it. They got out from the house, and this was the house. If you didn't notice anything yet, hold on. This was supposed to be the house they were in. This is what they saw at 10 p.m. This is where they left at 4 a.m. You see the difference? They left and they were all this time in an abandoned house. What happened is that the jinns basically gave them the illusion that they were in this house right here. But the bands kept running in the streets just to make sure that there is nobody after him. And after running for a while, they saw somebody. That somebody basically asked them, why the hell are y'all running? Is this a marathon? Like, I don't. Nora and the band were like, whoa, don't talk to us. We know that you're a jinn. Stop talking to us. Well, that somebody basically responded and he was confused. He was like, what? What the hell are you all talking about? Nora and the band members realized that he's normal, he's a normal human being, and they were like, oh, okay, he's on our side, don't worry. They started explaining to him what happened to them in this house. After hearing their story, he said something crazy. He said that this house right here has been abandoned before even he was born.
So I had a total crash out this weekend, and I have just absolutely had it. I went to the grocery store today just to get a few things. I'm sitting here right now because I can't fucking sleep, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have a bowl of cereal because I just bought a huge box of cereal today. Look at this. I haven't even opened it. This is a $5 box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I haven't opened it, and that's it. A pound of ground beef today was $12. And I don't give a fuck. Don't come in my comments and be like, oh, where do you live? Grocery prices are down where I live. It's not that. Fuck you, okay? Because it's bad. The price of food is getting ridiculous. Like, I have cut out every single thing in my life that I can imagine. I don't get my hair done anymore. I do my nails at home. I've canceled every subscription on my TV. I put gas in my car when I can and leave it in the garage just in case I don't drive anywhere unless I absolutely have to. This is not how I want to live. This is not how we should be living. And I don't care what anybody says, but this is not how we should be living. There is so much money in America that there should not be anybody hungry or homeless. In the last 3 days, I have seen more people living in their car. And I'm not talking about homeless. I'm talking about people like me, like you, that have been working our entire lives. I'll be 51 in a couple weeks, and they have to live in their car. It's fucking scary. We're fucked.
One of the most overused and misinterpreted words in the spirituality space is this, embodiment. Let's dive into it. A lot of people act as if embodiment just means being in the body, being extremely sensual, right? Feeling. That's great. It's good. It's an amazing practice, but it ain't embodiment. You see, we live in a world that is dominated by performance. Fake it till you make it. And the spirituality space is no exception. Every single person on this planet can intellectually know something. They can say whatever they want. I can say all separation is illusion. I can say all is love. But if my actions don't actually express that, it ain't embodied. But embodiment is when intellectual knowledge sinks into the heart, into the body, into the nervous system, into you at a cellular level. When the energy that you are is aligned with your thoughts, your words, your actions. You move in a authentic expression. When these spiritual gurus act as if they know everything because to them, a spiritual guide knows everything. So they must perform the knowledge of everything. That's just a performance. It's not real. People talk about the age of Aquarius and all illusion falling away. You want to know why illusion is going to fall away? Because discernment is rising. Discernment allows you to see through performance. In the past, I would outsource my energy and power to anything outside of me, right? I would see videos that seemed to be very smart. And I'm like, wow, that is amazing. They know so much. But as I've walked the spiritual path, as my discernment has grown, it has become very easy to see through those who are performing versus those who actually embody the knowledge that they say and that they speak to. I know there's those of you that are watching this that know what I'm talking about. I remember reading for years that reality was a reflection of me, that it's all a mirror, and I understood it intellectually. I still remember the date when I was looking out a window and all of a sudden I felt it sink into the body where I finally understood it at a new level. It was like I was seeing the world in a different way for the first time. I understood it was all a reflection. It was showing me, revealing me to me. It was amazing. My energy changed. I felt a shift. I was now able to embody the knowledge and act from a perspective that I previously only intellectually understood. So how do you gain embodiment? By realizing your path is perfect. The ups and downs are all by design. They're all teaching you so that you can embody the knowledge that you're seeking after. Everything is happening in perfect divine timing. You cannot lose your path. If your intention is on it, it is happening. You need to cultivate the awareness of, why am I here right now? What is this showing to me? What is this teaching me? The ups are not a reward. The downs are not a punishment. They are all teachers. All growth is expand, contract, expand, contract. I know some of you are exhausted right now, and it's because you're learning to embody surrender. Surrender is going to unlock your most expansive state. You're doing a great job. I love you.
If you thought the power of sound had been hidden from us, let's just look at the 1800s when this neurologist noticed that his patients with Parkinson's sometimes improved after a bumpy train ride. He believed the vibrations were relieving the symptoms of Parkinson's, and he wasn't wrong. This gentleman with Parkinson's demonstrates how when he presses a weighted tuning fork, just like this one, to his bone, the vibrations change the way his body moves.
Weighted tuning fork at 128 hertz could stop my dyskinesia.
That is the vibrations directly interacting with his nerves in clearly what is a beneficial way. Doctors in the 1800s believed the nerves carried signals like tiny strings vibrating with energy. By striking a tuning fork near the body, they could reset those vibrations. Look at what Jean-Martin Charcot reported when he played this giant tuning fork next to this lady. The vibrations literally froze her movements. I believe sound vibration was so key to our ancestors, and that is why we say so many phrases referencing sound. It struck a chord. I got a bad vibe. We're on the same wavelength. It resonates with me. Is it sound? Yes, it is. Can you change your tune? Yes, you can. Check out my NDE playlist for the backstory on why I truly believe in the therapeutic benefits of sound vibrations that can be achieved by anyone with tuning forks. I found this amazing set on TikTok. It has 4 forks, 2 weighted, 2 not, in excellent frequencies. It has plenty of instructions, but all you really need is your intuition. There's a link in the video, and I'll see you in the comments. Take care.
I don't think I will ever not enjoy a Glamham video.
They call emotions ours, my anger, your grief, her joy. But what if that ownership is the first illusion? Across all Sufi commentaries, Tibetan commentaries, on the Bardo and fragments of Hermetic medicine, runs a stranger idea. Feelings are not just chemical storms. They are living currents. Think of an argument that lingers long after the words stop, and the way one person's fear can infect a whole room. Ancient Gnostics describe archons that feed on agitation. These medicine speaks of hungry winds moving through the organs. Modern neurobiology quietly admits that moods travel between people faster than any virus. Now imagine every surge of rage or craving as a small creature, an energetic organism looking for a host. Feel it rise. You call it my emotion. And by naming it, you give it keys to the house. It multiplies when you share it. A post, a sigh, a single sentence can spread the colony. The mystics warn that the soul is not just a battlefield of good and evil. It's an ecosystem. Some feelings fertilize growth, others are predators disguised as passion. Kabbalists spoke of kripo, shells that cling until the spark inside is recognized and released. Sufi healers told silent not to escape emotion, but to starve the feeder. So, the next time the sudden wave or anger or despair sweeps through you, ask a different question. Not why I'm like this, but who invited this guest, and how long has it been hidden here? Because if emotions are visitors, then mastery isn't suppression, it's learning to close the door.
Hey, I just got a great question from Den Bigman, and I get questions like this a lot, and it always comes from, and because I can feel people, I can feel vibration, I can feel what's going on here, and I want to say thank you to people like this, and thank you to Den Bigman, because what you're expressing here is a frustration, or you basically haven't been as successful as you would like to be. And instead of maybe taking a step back and seeing how you're being or your vibration, this is what we all do, by the way, I'm just using a general, I'm not calling this person out. Instead of sort of seeing the way we're going about it, we sort of scrap the whole idea. So I do a lot of videos about manifestation and creating the life that you want. And I put out videos about how to allow more money into your life, how to allow the lover into your life. I have courses on this stuff. And inevitably somebody will always say, why are people always wanting things? Does the cycle of wanting ever stop? Are we always in a constant state of wanting? How about you just meditate, live, love, help, seek the kingdom of God, and all will be given to you. And there's a little bit more to what this person is saying, but that's the gist of it. Well, here's the funny thing. All of those things you mentioned to do instead are things you desire, things that you want. So even desiring to have no desire is a desire. Even wanting to not want is a want. To seek the kingdom of heaven is something you want. It's something you desire. You're just saying that that speaks more to you. So great, do that. That's actually a part of the process because it allows you to realize that you can relax and allow Source to deliver it. Because as soon as you desire something, and the reason why you desire something is because Source, the universe, God, has already fulfilled it. It's a complete circuit already. There's no pieces to the puzzle that are missing. You're just seeing them as you go down the path. If you don't have the desire, life doesn't expand. We're all here for the desire of our souls to have a physical experience. Desire is everything. Desire moves expansion. Now, wanting or being in a state of lack, being in a state of scarcity, that's something else. That's not desire. That's not wanting. That is, you feel lack. You feel like things aren't going to work out. You're out of alignment with who you really are. You're out of alignment with the universal laws. So you got to notice what end of the spectrum are you functioning from? Because you could say a lot of things with your words, but you could be meaning something totally different with your vibration. The universe doesn't care what you say or your words. Trust me, it responds to your vibration. A lot of people talk the talk. Some people walk the walk. Very few vibrate the vibrating. But no matter where you are or what you do, you're always going to desire something. That is what being alive is all about. You desire health. You desire happiness. You desire world peace, for example. Great. All of those things are expanding you or calling you into who you really are. Because again, every desire is already fulfilled in the universe, in a reality that's waiting for you to line up with it. Not to go, oh, we shouldn't desire. That's bad because it hasn't worked out yet. No, learn actually how it works. And one of the best things to do is to realize the desire isn't the issue. It's your focus, the way in which you're focusing, the focus on lack and scarcity. That's what's shutting down your ability to see how manifestation works.
My name is Jenna Miscavige. My uncle is the leader of Scientology, and I escaped when I was 22. Are there arranged marriages in Scientology? A lot of you have asked this question. The answer is not per se or as a matter of policy, but it's not actually too far off. When you're part of their most dedicated group, called a Sea Org member, as I was, you can only marry another Sea Org member, of which there are about 5,000 in the world. On top of that, you have to marry someone on your base, which narrows it down to about 500 to 1,000 people. By the way, there are no gay marriages. On top of that, different groups at the same base are not on the same level. You have to have special clearance to be in certain groups, which involves going through hundreds of hours of videoed interrogations, having certain scores on your IQ test, personality tests, and aptitude tests, having a good production and ethical record, no family members who pose a threat to Scientology, no perversions, and getting approved through international management. Your potential spouse must be qualified for the group that you are in or are trying to be a part of, or else they're seen as someone you could potentially share secrets with or who could corrupt you down to their level. So that narrows the pool quite a bit. You're required to get permission from the captain of your base before you get married. They used to let people marry inter-organizationally, but in the last 2 years before I left, they were forcing couples who'd been married for 20 or more years to divorce because they weren't in the same group. So this narrows the pool down to 50 to 200 people. This in addition to people often marrying very young, because premarital heavy petting is not allowed. If you violate this rule, penalties are very steep. I got married when I was 18, but my friend Misha got married when she was 15. This is very common. So this is not arranged marriage per se, but it might as well be, and in some ways it's worse. This is how it is for Sea Org members, their most dedicated group. So other Scientologists like Tom Cruise can marry whoever they want, although Scientologists almost always marry other Scientologists. Or if they aren't a Scientologist when they meet, they become one. Tom Cruise recruited Nicole Kidman and Katie Holmes into Scientology. Thankfully, they got out. He tried to recruit Penelope Cruz, and he is certainly already trying to recruit Anna Diarmid.
Here is some more footage from the 1901 World's Fair in Buffalo, New York. Now I want you to take notice of something. Besides all the impossible stone architecture, but notice the lack of kids, or really the lack of people in general at this World's Fair. And the people you do see are all very well dressed, all almost in a uniform. And they are seemingly just walking aimlessly about, not looking at the architecture, not really anything, just walking without purpose. It almost looks very staged to me. And just look at all the ornate detail, just in this little block. This looks nothing like a fair. And nothing like a temporary exhibit either. One of the most beautiful parts of the World's Fair in Buffalo, though, has to be it lit up at night. For being in 1901, when electricity was barely a thing yet, let alone light bulbs, just take a look at this fair lit up at night. This looks like a city straight out of Star Wars. It certainly looks like something we can't pull off today. Not in 2 years' time, not in 10 years' time. I remember in my city, it took them 2 years to build a little drawbridge for this little part of the island. And after 2 years of that road being closed, it opened up and broke down not even a month later. And it took them 6 months to get right. Just another typical modern day project. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
At 2 a.m. on December 2nd, 1755, a 94-year-old man named Henry Hall slowly climbed a flight of stairs inside of a lighthouse off the southwest coast of England. Even though Henry was in his 90s, he was still working as a lighthouse keeper. The other two lighthouse keepers that were staying on this island with Henry, they were passed out drunk in their beds. This is in 1755, so this is before electricity. And so the light that was coming out of this lighthouse were literally a whole bunch of candles that were situated in this big chandelier that kind of hung down from the very top of the spire. And then above, where the candles were all resting in the chandelier, was this big dome that was the very top of the lighthouse. And the dome was lined with lead. The lead sort of reflected all the light and pushed all the light out all the windows. They had to go up to the lantern room and make sure all the candles were lit. Doing these every 30-minute checks of the candles was completely routine. As he's making his way up the stairs, he starts to smell smoke. And clearly some of the soot that was caked on the underside of this dome was starting to smolder. Henry decided the best thing for him to do was to open up a window. But when he does, it creates a vacuum effect and all this air gets pulled into the lantern room and the dome just ignites into flames. There was this balcony that jutted outside of the actual lighthouse. And so he stepped out onto this balcony, he turned and could look up, and basically right in front of him is the roof and it's on fire. And out on this balcony were all these buckets to collect rainwater. So one by one, he's chucking the water up on the roof, and here's his two colleagues come bounding up the stairs stairs, and all three of them are now grabbing buckets. And then finally, Henry grabbed one last bucket and he chucked the water right onto the roof. He suddenly felt this blinding pain come over his whole body. And his colleagues, they look at him and they see he's smoldering. There's smoke coming off of him. And they're dousing Henry with water. He just blurts out to them, "We gotta get out of here." So the three of them, they abandon the buckets and they bolt out of the lighthouse and they make their way to a cave on the coast of this island. And luckily, there was a ship on the horizon that spotted this smoldering ruin of the lighthouse. And they came in, they scooped the three men up, and they brought them back to mainland England. Henry's two younger coworkers made sure to help get Henry to his home. And then when he was there, they called for a doctor because Henry was still complaining about this really intense feeling in his stomach. And the doctor told him, like, "Look, I don't know exactly what that pain is from, but very likely when you were right near the fire, you were inhaling a lot of smoke." So for the next several days, he got worse. And then finally, 12 days after the fire, Henry died. The doctor decided to perform an autopsy on Henry. It would turn out during the fire, he looked up as he was throwing the water and his mouth was open. And at the same time he did that, a piece of molten lead from the dome dripped down and fell into his mouth and then cooled and hardened in his stomach. Today, that same piece of lead is actually on display at the National Museum of Scotland.
They say the truth sets you free, but what if the truth is so dangerous they built a vault to keep it silent? In the heart of Vatican City, behind bronze doors that never open to the public, lies the most restricted archive on Earth. 53 miles of locked shelves, 2 men allowed entry, and no accountability to anyone else. This is M-spiracy, and this is what they sealed beneath the cross. The door no one walks through, the Apostolic Archive, formerly the Vatican Secret Archive, sits beneath the Papal Palace. Access is granted to only 2 living people, the Pope and the archivist he appoints directly. There are no guided tours, no camera crews, no digital copies, and no one speaks of what they see inside. But scattered documents, leaks, and whispers over centuries have revealed enough to suggest something far beyond religion. The Forbidden Index? There exists within the vault a book list you were never meant to read. The Index Librorum Prohibitorum, the list of forbidden books. These weren't fairy tales, they were gospels, letters, and records removed from the public Bible. Why? Because they told stories the church couldn't control. A Jesus who was not divine but enlightened, a serpent who freed mankind instead of corrupting it, a mother figure older than God, and star beings who arrived long before man could write. These texts were never destroyed, they were preserved, just not for you. The Forgotten Gospel, one ancient text stands apart, often overlooked, often left unread. It's called the Gospel of Mary. It was discovered in 1896, sealed inside a cave in Egypt. It describes a figure who speaks of inner truth, balance and knowledge as the path to understanding. But despite its historical value, access to the original manuscript is still limited, rarely discussed, rarely shown. Some say it's because this text offers a different perspective, a perspective that shifts the focus from external worship to internal awakening. And when that happens, the system changes. What we've seen so far is only the surface. The sealed books, the banned gospels, the forbidden maps. But the Vatican Vault is not just a library, it's a containment chamber. And what it holds may not be paper at all. The devices buried in the lower levels, according to deep leaks and forgotten letters, are artifacts. Not relics, not symbols. Objects. Black stone boxes recovered during crusades, said to vibrate when scripture is read aloud. Metallic discs inscribed with unknown alphabets humming at specific frequencies. And a set of mirrors, not reflective, not decorative, but said to show images that shift without light. Some scholars believe these are ancient technologies, retrieved, not created, held, not understood, and still active. The Whispers in the Vault. In 1957, a Monsignor reportedly requested early retirement after spending just 6 days cataloguing a sealed corridor of the archive. His letter simply read, "They whisper when there is no one speaking. No further explanation. No public record of what he saw. No access to the wing he referenced." Others speak of rooms that must be entered barefoot, of doorways where electronics fail, of items that cause lucid dreams for days after being in their presence. And one object, nicknamed the Whistler, is stored under magnetic lock, lead casing, and complete silence. No one is permitted to speak near it, not because it will hear, but because it might respond. In the 1960s, whispers emerged of a device held in secret beneath the Vatican, a machine called the chronovisor, said to have been built by a team of scientists and monks, combining spiritual resonance, frequency mechanics, and a metal called temporal alloy. Its function, not to see the present, but to view other points in time, past and future, by tuning into vibrational signatures embedded in space. The Vatican has never denied it outright, but every priest linked to it has vanished from public record, and a full schematic of the machine was allegedly seen by 2 popes, one of whom resigned shortly after. So what lies beneath the vault now? Some say the original pre-flood scrolls from Babylon, Sumeria, and Lemuria, codices taken from temples that predate all known civilizations, the bones of entities not listed in the Book of Genesis, and at least one object that requires constant supervision is kept in an isolation chamber lined with gold. It cannot be touched. And only a small group is authorized to enter the room. They are not priests, they are not scholars, they are watchers. The Vatican says they preserve history, but their silence tells another story. But this isn't about belief, it's about what they found, what they kept, and what they're still guarding in a vault no one talks about. And the past isn't lost, it's sealed.
By now, I'm going to assume most people know about all the generals being called to a meeting today.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has ordered hundreds of senior military officers to Virginia for an urgent meeting. The Pentagon has provided very little detail about this meeting, but CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie Daggett tells us it's a rare event, if not unprecedented move.
Now, what this is exactly, I don't know. And anybody that's on social media telling you that they do is full of. But I can tell you what I do know. The place that this meeting is being held is at a military installation at Quantico, Virginia. And Quantico is basically the training ground for something called the Irregular Warfare Center. And for anybody that doesn't know what this is, it's a program that prepares fighters for irregular warfare using next generation techniques and concepts. It's basically using anything they can think of to gain ground against their opponent. So if you organized a pep rally and did something dramatic during that pep rally to either weaken the mental health of the other team or point a finger at another, that would be irregular, especially if that football game was on September 10th. Now, this is a document that came out from the IWC back in July of 2023. This was after that AI-generated pic of the explosion at the Pentagon went around. Well, this is what they learned from that whole situation. By using artificial intelligence to create different mediums for influence, one could potentially create the illusion of an ongoing war, an attack, a resistance movement, and other versions of collateral for information operations. This sounding familiar to anybody? And since we're speaking about illusions, there was just a big UN meeting, and one of the hot topics was AI. AI must not decide humanity's fate.
These initiatives aim to connect science, policy, and practice, provide every country a seat at the table, and reduce fragmentation. They represent practical tools to make AI safer, more inclusive, and more accountable.
Basically saying they want control and for AI and machines not to be able to delete human beings. Now, we all know that anything that we get told, the tech is like 20 years ahead of us, right? Did you know that last year they announced that they could turn our cell phones, as well as anything like it, into a holographic projector? Samsung even announced it at the beginning of this year. Which reminds me, did you see that weird thing where everybody thought that the cell phone companies were trying to get people's 13 Pro Maxes? Even offering them cash for the amount that the brand new iPhones cost. iPhone 13. And it's weird because the holographic tech is for 14 Pros and up. So needless to say, they can pretty much do and make us see anything they want on our cell phones. And I don't know, this whole thing seems pretty irregular to me, especially when it all stems from this place right here. Now I'm going to end this video with a clip from the IWC. It's a trailer they put out. And let me know if it resonates. Y'all stay safe.
Morbid Facts, Part 748. In September of 2025, 21-year-old University of Kentucky cheerleader Laken Snelling was arrested after her roommate called 911 to report finding a dead newborn in their off-campus home. The baby boy was found wrapped in a towel and shoved into a black garbage bag in the back of a closet. When first responders arrived, the baby was described as cold to the touch, suggesting he had been there for hours. Police later learned Snelling had secretly carried the pregnancy to term, delivered the baby in silence, and left him hidden before leaving the house. She was later taken into custody and charged with corpse, tampering with evidence, and concealing the birth of an infant. Since her arrest, Snelling has withdrawn from the university and is no longer listed on the school's cheer team. If convicted, the felony charges alone carry up to 5 years in prison and thousands in fines. She was released on a $100,000 bond and is currently under house arrest with her parents in Tennessee as investigators continue to determine the baby's cause of death.
Oh, you son of a... Every hospital staff member. Jake. No, listen. Every hospital staff member. Jake, you know how bad a hospital needs to be for everybody to go to prison? In this hospital, everything was going on. People were stealing drugs, taking drugs, selling drugs, and even giving drugs to patients. Poor Valerie. Poor sweet, sweet Valerie. Beloved grandma Valerie Neal died after being admitted to the stroke unit. As a result of the investigation, detectives discovered that Mrs. Neal had been forcefully sexually assaulted and died as a result of her injuries. She was someone's grandma. You piece of shit. Why is this not worldwide news? They was calling it the hospital of horrors. Oh, you son of a bitch.
A migrant in Germany follows this woman around demanding because he's a man and needs it, and he won't take no for an answer. My needs, and my needs are, so you don't have consent. Don't always say no. I have my needs. That's disgusting. She's annoying you because she's saying no? But I was first? What the? Yeah, call the cops now! What is up with this guy's forehead? What is, and his beard? Fighting for survival? Bro, this woman's fighting for her survival. Good, yeah, call the cops. Holy shit. Bro, she needs to get the fuck away from him right away, dude. This guy's unpredictable. I need affection. I must survive. Bro, go. If you would like to know more about this story, click the related video down below.
The narco kitty in May of 2025 tried to smuggle drugs into a prison in Costa Rica. It tried to smuggle in 260 grams of marijuana and 67 grams of crack paste, they say, and cocaine. So they didn't implant it into the cat. They taped it to the cat's fur. And the prison guards saw this cat roaming around the prison, and they decided, oh, let's pick up this cat. And they discovered that it had all of this marijuana and cocaine taped to it. Now, then they cut it off. Very fine little tapes to its fur, so they were able to get it off and get the cat rescued over to the proper cat authorities, I guess. So the question is, like, who gives these drugs to cats and just lets them roam into prison? Prison is in Costa Rica, again, it is converted May of 2025. Cats are known to roam into buildings in other countries and just go unnoticed. That's why the government tried to use Acoustic Kitty, the program Acoustic Kitty, to get a cat to maneuver its way into Cuba and other countries with a microphone in its ear so they could hear what was going on in these government buildings. What do you think? Put your comment in the comment section.
Breaking news, they've now confirmed that Celeste had multiple fake identification cards. In addition to that, David's friends who are familiar with the two said that they believed they were a couple and that she was 19, and that she presented herself as such. Law enforcement sources confirmed that she had multiple fake identification cards that allowed her to pass herself as an adult. In addition, David's friends said that they believed she was also 19 years old because she was hanging out in places that required you to be at least 18. Friends of David also said that they were shocked to find out that there was any connection between him and her passing. They said his demeanor is, quote, super shy, soft-spoken, and gentle. In addition, law enforcement sources close to the investigation have confirmed that Celeste was not the one seen in David's video at the concert. However, there are pictures of David and Celeste together, and there also were live streams. There were also times where Celeste would come in and comment in the live streams. Since then, all of those have been deleted. Celeste was also caught on surveillance footage at a local convenience store in her hometown. This was on March 19th of 2024. This was also during a time that she was missing. The reason the footage was obtained is because her sister went to the store and asked them if they had seen her. They rewound the footage and saw her. The convenience store owner knows Celeste as well as a lot of the neighborhood children because the bus stop is right in front of the store. He said Celeste, along with others, come in and typically buy chips and soda. When they reviewed the footage, they saw that she left, walked across the street, then down the street, and got into a black vehicle. However, they could not determine the make and model of the vehicle or who was in it. To stay up to date on this case, make sure you click the playlist below. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
Disturbing video in New York City showing an ICE agent shoving a mother against a wall, sending her falling to the floor. Her husband detained just moments before, all with their children watching. Tonight, that agent has now been suspended, and a warning here. The video is difficult. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, this federal immigration agent seen pushing a woman, now relieved of duty. Video shows the woman pleading as masked ICE agents detain her husband yesterday in New York. The officers blocking the hallway, preventing her from running toward her husband, then carrying her into a room. The agent later heard saying adios before shoving the woman against the wall, causing them both to fall to the floor, then hovering over her as her crying children rushed to her side. The mother taken to the hospital for treatment. Officials saying the family was at the courthouse for a routine asylum hearing.
The kids were in my office. It is just crushing to have seen them speak to their father who called from immigration detention, and to have the young boy, he didn't know where his dad was. It's just sort of unspeakable, the terror and the fear that they and so many others are feeling because of this militarized ICE department.
And tonight, the Department of Homeland Security calling the agent's conduct unacceptable and beneath the men and women of ICE. David, DHS says that ICE agent has been relieved of current duties as they conduct a full investigation. Congressman Goldman has asked the DOJ to review the officer for possible criminal charges. David.
Stephanie Ramos reporting tonight. Steph, thank you.
In 2010, Kayla was a senior at the University of California, Santa Barbara, a big party school. And one Friday evening, Kayla and her friends were at a big party, and Kayla was having a great time, but she was starting to feel really tired. And so she asked her friends if maybe they wanted to leave early, but none of them did. And so Kayla left on her own. That night, her two roommates had decided to stay in and just have a nice night with a couple of friends having some wine. And so when Kayla walked inside, she saw there was a guy laying there with a blanket up to his chin. She didn't recognize him, but he was staring at her, and she figured, oh, he must be a friend of her roommates. But as she walked across the room, she kind of glanced back at him, and he had pulled the covers down slightly, and he had lifted his head up, and he was staring at her kind of menacingly. And so Kayla got a really bad vibe from this guy and just kind of hustled into her room, shut the door behind her, and locked it, something she never did. A couple of hours later, she woke up to what sounded like tapping on wood. She realizes this tapping sound is the sound of someone drumming their fingers on the outside of her door. And then all of a sudden, the drumming stops, and it's replaced by the sound of scratching on the outside of the door. And now the scratching on the door has stopped, and it's been replaced by jiggling of her doorknob. And so now Kayla is just mad. And so she yells out, "Hey, stop!" But it doesn't do anything. And so now Kayla's like, okay, I gotta call my roommates, wake them up, and they'll handle it. And so she calls one of her roommates, and Kayla angrily tells them, hey, come out into the living room and tell your friend to knock it off. He's totally harassing me. And her roommate says, Kayla, what are you talking about? And Kayla says, the guy in our living room sleeping on the couch. And her roommate said, Kayla, we didn't have anybody over last night. Is somebody out there? You need to call the police. Kayla's adrenaline surged, and she very calmly told her roommate, lock your door immediately. Kayla manages to dial up 911, and before long, there are sirens outside, and Kayla hears the sound of this guy run across the house, and she hears the sliding door open and shut. And the police bring them over to their side door, and they show them on the outside, there's all sorts of scratch marks all over the doorknob and right around the latch. And so then they asked the girls to give their statement about what happened, and they started with Kayla. They went over to her bedroom door so she could demonstrate what happened, and that's when they noticed there were all these scratch marks and gouge marks all over the outside of her bedroom door, and on the ground was a pair of scissors and a knife. And the police told Kayla that it looks like he used those scissors and that knife to open up the side door, and he's trying to use those tools again to open up her door, but for whatever reason, he just couldn't do it. They told Kayla that most likely when she went in the front door, she caught this guy off guard. Maybe he was trying to rob the place, but either way, Kayla got in and ruined his plans. And so he leapt onto that sofa to kind of tuck himself away in hopes that maybe Kayla wouldn't look over and see him. And they told her that most likely when she made eye contact with him, she became a witness and therefore a target of opportunity. Had she not locked her door, who knows what would have happened.
Imagine calling police while you're being murdered and they hang up on you. It was April 2008 in beautiful Madison, Wisconsin. Brittany Zimmerman was a lovely 21-year-old girl. She was pretty, she was intelligent, and she was studying to be a microbiologist. She was a student at the University of Wisconsin and lived with her fiancé, Jordan Gonnering. And they thought that where they lived was pretty safe. They actually lived very close to a police station. I believe it was like 2 blocks away. Jordan described Brittany as just the nicest person ever. The couple were super excited to start wedding planning. They'd actually been dating for ages, and everybody who knew them just knew them as this amazing couple. They were lovely to each other, really supportive and they were looking forward to starting their future together. But sadly, Brittany wouldn't survive to her wedding day. Now, it was the 2nd of the month and it should have been a very ordinary day, and it did start out like an ordinary day. Brittany went to her classes in the morning and then went home and saw Jordan for a few seconds as usual. He then left the house and she was there alone. She was just cracking on with some work on her laptop, just minding her own business. But just after midday, all hell would break loose. Just after 12, Brittany dialed 911. But the dispatcher said that she couldn't really hear anything. She was going like, hello, hello, and nobody was answering on the phone. Now, my immediate thought would be somebody might be in danger and not be able to speak. So let's trace the call. Let's send a unit there anyway. Bear in mind, they're literally 2 blocks away from the police station. But the dispatcher just decided that it must have been like a butt dial. It must have just been somebody making a mistake. So she just hung up and left it. So when Jordan returned home a little while later, he was really confused to see the lock on their front door was broken. And this was really strange because Brittany hadn't called him to let him know that there was any issues. He walked into the house and found an absolute bloodbath. I can't even imagine coming home like barely an hour after you last saw your fiance and finding her dead on the bedroom floor. She'd been brutally attacked. She'd been strangled and stabbed and was lying on the floor. Poor Jordan was absolutely inconsolable, as you would be. He was like just crying and crying. Nobody could stop him crying. He was just devastated. He was saying like, she's the nicest person ever. How the hell could somebody have done this to her? And Brittany had some defensive wounds, which did signal that she tried to defend herself, but it's just absolutely devastating that nobody was there to save her. Now, police initially did look into Jordan because he is the romantic partner, but he did have an alibi. He was genuinely devastated and he was really wanting to find who the hell did this. A robbery was kind of the only logical explanation, but nothing had actually been taken from the house, so that didn't make sense either. There was obviously a lot of heat on the dispatcher who actually didn't dispatch anything. That was the whole problem. And the dispatcher actually like doubled down and tried to lie and say that she'd called Brittany back when she absolutely hadn't. And equally frustratingly, even though police were able to collect DNA, there were literally like no leads. There was just nothing to indicate who the hell could have done this. The case went cold for years, and I mean years, until finally in 2016 there was a breakthrough. A man called David Carl was matched through DNA to Brittany's t-shirt from the crime scene. It wasn't like 100% DNA match, but it was indicating that there was some kind of match there. He was actually already in prison by this point for DWI charges, and he had a bunch of other crimes on his record, interestingly including forcing himself onto a young woman. But when police questioned him, he stated, yep, he had seen Brittany that day that she was killed, but he had nothing to do with it. Then there was another development. A man called Andrew Scholes, who had been previously in prison with David, claimed that David had told him, admitted to him, that he'd killed Brittany. Now, in a really cruel twist, this Andrew, once he was released from prison, was actually killed in a motorbike accident, so it kind of killed with him all of the information that he could have told police. So that was really another setback for police because he can't go to trial and testify against him because he's literally dead. Finally, in March 2020, thanks to advances in DNA technology over the years, David was arrested and charged with Brittany's murder because they were able to get a 100% DNA match. He finally pleaded guilty and admitted to everything. He said that he was under the influence of substances at the time and he'd forced his way into her home. His version of events, I mean, I don't know how you actually really remember if you were under the influence of substances, but he said he went in, asked to use the bathroom and asked for money, and like she was super scared, and then he was scared that he was going to go back to prison, so he decided to kill her. I think one of the most infuriating parts about this case is that there was evidence that Brittany actually stayed alive for a little bit of time, at least enough time for her to like crawl off the bed where they believe that the attack happened and then onto the floor and try and get help. So who knows, if that dispatcher may have dispatched a police car to the scene, they may have been able to race Brittany to the hospital and then got her treatment. I don't know. David will thankfully spend the rest of his life behind bars.
So there's a video circulating right now of a mascot at Chuck E. Cheese getting arrested. It's got people debating on whether or not it was appropriate for the officers to arrest him during work hours in front of children, or if they should have waited for a different time. Check it out, let me know what you think.
Come on, stop resisting. Stop resisting. You're being detained. Stop resisting. Let it go. Let it go. Do not go off the scene here, sir.
Oh, goodness. This new body cam video showing the moment police in Tallahassee, Florida arrested this man working as a Chuck E. Cheese mascot in full costume. Police say the man inside that costume stole a customer's credit card, then used it to make fraudulent purchases. But parents inside the restaurant are now criticizing the officers over how they made the arrest.
He's a criminal. What would you like to know?
Oh, parents are upset that they put Chuck E. Cheese in handcuffs in the restaurant. A man is now charged with fraud, credit card theft.
What is the worst YouTube video of all time? So the video with the most dislikes is Baby Shark with 21 million dislikes, though. That's just a function of it having 16 billion views. It actually has a 30% dislike rate, meaning that it's not unanimously hated. In contrast, YouTube Rewind 2018 has 20 million dislikes, but an 87% dislike rate, meaning that it's proportionally more disliked. But it gets even worse than this because the Sadak 2 trailer has a 92% dislike rate, which is the highest for any video above 20 million views. If we're talking the worst in terms of quality, there's a video titled 4th of July by the account Undifferentiable in 2005 that is the worst honest attempt at uploading a video ever on the platform with it looking like this. If we're talking about the worst in terms of substance, the shortest video would qualify as the worst, which means that I actually technically have the worst video on YouTube because I have the shortest video that is only 17 frames long. If we're talking about the worst video in terms of gruesomeness, there's a lot on there that I can't allude to, but I'm sure you've seen a couple of them. But literally speaking, this is the worst YouTube video of all time because that's the actual title of this video.
Let's talk about Cynthia Erivo. Do we really think it's pure coincidence that someone who literally played a witch from a movie titled Wicked and is ultra Hollywood ends up playing Jesus Christ right here? Let's roll one of the clips that stuck out to me. When looking through the lens of discernment, you can clearly see what's going on, and it's another instance of Hollywood mocking it. Not to mention the fact that we fully know by this point that Cynthia Erivo is one of them. Quite simply, if you look at this transformation alone from her before Wicket and her after Wicket, it's obvious to see that something happened on that set. Very similar to the shocking transformation from Ariana Grande from before to after Wicket. In Ariana Grande's case, she also developed a different type of personality and was speaking softer and slower, and the whole thing was just creepy. This is just one of...
So Serena Williams was apparently very offended by the cotton decorations in the hallway of her hotel room. This was the decor in the hallway, and I guess she stopped and took a video and said, it just doesn't feel right. It's cotton. It feels like every single thing we use every single day and wear every single day of our entire lives. Haven't you heard? Cotton, the fabric of our lives. I just don't understand having a net worth of $300 million and letting the decor at a hotel, like, take time out of your day. It just makes me feel like some people wake up and choose to be offended. They can have everything in the world, the best life, every resource, but they wake up and choose to be offended. And what a miserable life that would be. I can't even be offended and I don't have $300 million. Let me tell you, if I had $300 million, not one thing in this world could bother me. Not a thing. It's almost like, I haven't been a victim in a while. I haven't felt offended in a while. Like, what can I reach for to, like, fill that void? And don't even get me started on the blonde wig of it all.
You know, I'll say right now, I don't go I sold my soul. I went to a red room. Sheezer, Convi, Aiden, and Tov came in with red robes on, and they had bloodstains dripping down their mouths. They walked up to me, walked around in a circle, and started doing a bunch of weird spells and asking on me. And I walked out after that, checked my bank account, $2 million in the account.
This is Lacey, a well-known streamer, and what he's just said is freaking people out. He casually drops a mention of a red room. And if you know anything about internet law, that's not something we joke about. Red rooms are these secret live streams where disturbing things happen for money. Most people say that's just myths, but the idea is enough to give you chills. But why would Lacey bring that up? Was he trolling for shock value, or did he slip and reveal something that he shouldn't have? Streamers don't usually risk their reputation out throwaway comments. Real or fake, once you've heard it, you start asking yourself how much of what we see online is just entertainment, and how much of it might actually be something darker. Let me know your thoughts and comments below.
4 months ago, I told you this was coming. I told you they will use illegal immigration as an excuse to impose digital IDs. And people laughed at me. Called me conspiracy theorist. They called me crazy and paranoid. Yesterday, a minister confirmed it. Said digital IDs here, rolled out in the UK. And suddenly, now you all care. Now it's all over your feeds. Everybody's talking about it. But here's the problem. Once the official admits it, it's already built. You're reacting way too late. And the UK is not the last. Sweden has it, Latvia, Lithuania, others too. And it's not stopping at one border. Understand the pattern. Every crisis becomes a pretext for control. Immigration today, something else tomorrow. If you only wake up when the script is read on TV, you're already inside the cage. So, do you want to keep reacting when it's too late? Or do you want to start seeing the pattern before they hand you the headline?
I wonder why Candace is not covering this. A movie came out called Snake Eyes, where U.S. Secretary of Defense named Charles Kirkland is assassinated by a sniper during a public boxing match. In 2025, a political figure named Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck at a public event. Now, in the movie, the boxer in the ring is literally named Tyler the Executioner. People around the world are pointing out how strange these overlaps are. I mean, Charles Kirkland, Charlie Kirk, both hit in public, one by sniper, one in real life, both tied to an arena event. This movie showed the date 9/10, which is when the boxing match was going to happen. And that's the Illuminati card game in the 90s, the card that said enough is enough. And that showed like just snipes when you so happen to be the last words posted on Charlie's profile. Then Hulu drops a series about a political leader shot at a public rally in the neck. You call this coincidence, guys? You can call it predictive programming, but you can't deny the similarities. I mean, is this just random? Are we being shown the script before it happens, like always, like The Simpsons? I don't know what's going on, but blowing my mind.
Did you know other people around 9/11 who already were thinking like this? Like maybe reality as presented to us is not entirely real. People would believe things only so far. Yes.
And so I would back off and I say, you know what, we're just gonna focus on 2 things. And if you can explain those, I'll submit to the official story.
But explain these anomalies
first. Building 7 in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Just help me out there. You know, I've got to believe that the Pentagon is the most video protected, surveilled building in the history of the known universe, right?
Turns out not.
Well, I'm saying
I think we just have 2 videos from the
parking kiosk. Yeah. So that's the thing. And then
that is weird.
And then building 7. It's just you can't watch that and say that is the result of a fire that burned for 5 hours on 2 floors. You can't sell that to me. For years, that was always met with, that is disrespecting the victims. And I'm like, how? How is that disrespecting the fallen heroes? How?
We tried to tell you that it's all just a big stage, and these celebrities are playing a role. It's just an act. And you didn't believe we. But when we say we got your ass, we got your ass. So let me see if I got this straight. In 1998, there was a film called Snake Eyes, where a character called Charles Kirkland got shot in the neck whilst watching a boxing fight, which featured Tyler the Executioner, which happens to be the same name that kills Charles Kirk in real life. Snake Eyes. And we're in the year of the snake. Look what it says on the front cover. Believe everything except your eyes. Believe everything except your eyes. And we all saw it publicly on TV. The world is a stage, not the hand gestures. No. We all know what those hands mean, Charles.
If you can't see it, you are just blind. Watch this.
I believe that we all have angels in our lives. And these are my little angels from Antonio Placement Center in Constanța, Romania.
Listen,
Our goal with the Romanian Angels Project was to show these children the true American heart during the holiday season. And what better way to do that than having our United States military personally deliver the gifts?
Listen.
All 75 children had a present to open that day. Sometimes the greatest charity comes from the most simple forms of kindness.
And now my concern is, where are these kids? Where are they now? And I found this picture from TikTok. And is this thing true? Tell me, read this here. I don't want to say it here, but tell me what you all think about it. And look at this picture. It's giving me bad vibes. Tell me what you all think about it. Like, I have concern, like, where are these kids? Where they have been?
Do you think my outfit is offensive?
Are you Mexican?
No.
Yes.
I think it reaffirms stereotypes that are offensive to people.
It's not yours.
Do you find my outfit offensive?
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
Because it's not your culture. You don't really understand what their culture means and what it means to wear these things, like the hats and the maracas. You sort of have to understand where all of this comes from for it to not be cultural appropriation.
Does my outfit offend you?
You look no. You look nice.
Thank you. Do you like my costume?
Yes.
Does it offend you?
No.
Do you like my outfit?
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Does my outfit offend you?
No, not at all. No, nothing. That's good.
See, that's the problem with today's society, folks. Everybody's getting offended for other people. Like, man, you need to feel offense for others is the thing I can't figure out. You're offended for someone else. You're assuming that someone else is offended, and clearly they're not. It's just, again, stupidity.
Who is this? Can somebody tell me? Serious. Who the hell is this? He wasn't even a real doctor. He wasn't a real doctor. This is unrealistic. So a fake unlicensed doctor was supposedly healing premature babies out of fear. How long was these babies out of fear? Think about it realistically. What kind of society or civilization is this? Think about it in today's terms. A fun fair is growing, healing premature babies illegally. And everyone knows about it so much that moms are sending their babies. This can't be real. Miracle Babies Foundation. How one man saved a generation of prematures. Come on, brother. A whole generation. Oh, you son of a cabbage patch.
Really what this is all about is you wanting to bring back the idea of ID cards, which didn't go so well when you were Prime Minister.
I happen to think the case for biometric ID as actually an instrument in the hands of citizens to help them with their daily lives is overwhelming. And I just make you this prediction. In years to come, most countries will move in that direction.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
The thing is that I think you will get to the stage where it's going to be very hard for people to do a lot of normal life unless they can prove their... I think you'll find a situation where countries say to you, you're not coming in here unless we see whether you've had the disease and got antibodies or you've had a recent high-quality test. And so if people have got to understand going to be, in the end, your route to liberty.
What do you mean Google and Disney bought the rights to the King James Bible? This is what people are saying. Listen, I don't know nothing about this. This is what people are saying. I don't know how true it is. But why is that? Is that true? Why would they want to buy the rights to that? Huh? Anybody got an answer to that? Why would those two big companies, those two big names, want to buy the rights to the KJB? Why? Why is that? It makes you think. It makes you wonder. What do they want with that book? Why do they want the rights to it? Why is that? What is going on, guys? Because there seems to be so much going on. How do I know that? Somebody said it. Somebody said it. And it wasn't me. They said it. Go look at that video. Go look at that video of that person that said that. Because I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But if that happened, something is going on out here, guys. Why would they want to do such a thing? I never know you could even buy the rights to something like that. I don't like this at all. And of course, this video is for entertainment purposes only. I'm just playing around, guys. I don't know how true that is. We'll be making up a lot of stories. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what somebody said. You can't believe everything we hear. I don't know, guys. You let me know what you think about this. You heard about this?
So while we've all been distracted by what's going on in the national news cycle, Republicans in red states have been waging an extremist war against women. Republican state legislatures have introduced bills that would ban hormonal birth control, make it harder or impossible for pregnant women to get divorced, make it harder for women to get divorced across the board, and also make it harder for women to get their kids in a divorce even if they've been abused. They've been able to avoid the outrage and the scrutiny here by going after these rights covertly, specifically attacking the really niche legal theories that they rest on. For example, most people don't understand that it's no-fault divorce laws that allow women to seek a divorce and a dissolution of marriage without having to actually prove in court to a high legal standard that there's been infidelity, that they've been abused or that they've been abandoned. They're trying to take us back to a time where women can't get a divorce unless they can prove wrongdoing and they're believed by a court of law. We know how often that happens. What I think is the most horrifying and dangerous thing here, though, is that many of these red states are changing their well-established custody laws that were designed to protect the best interest of the child in order to basically intimidate women into staying married. The custody standard in most states is literally called the best interest of the child, meaning that the child will split their time between parents in the way that is best for their physical, emotional well-being. Many red states have abandoned that standard in favor of a 50-50 custody presumption, which may sound great and fair on the surface, but what happens when one parent has a history of violence or emotional? They still get 50% of the time automatically. Anyone who thinks about that for more than 2 seconds will realize that that obviously discourages women from leaving abusive relationships because their children will have to spend 50% of their time alone with that person. And it should be shocking to no one that in those states, divorce rates have gone down drastically, but domestic violence fatalities have gone up. Women are fighting for their lives, literally. They're passing laws to keep us pregnant, then keep us married, then keep us trapped there with our kids, no matter what. This is at the same time they're preaching to women online that you shouldn't work, you should be dependent on your husband, and you shouldn't want to have any independence because that's just the woke mind virus. My point is that this is a sophisticated attack on vulnerable women that's happening very quietly and very quickly, and the rest of us need to wake up and speak up before it's too late.
You have got to take a look at this. Paris, Italy, Canada, even more France, Northern Ireland. And let's not forget to mention the UK, you know? Crowds are literally filling the streets around the world. Voices are rising and people are demanding change. We are living in one of the most craziest times in human history, and you can literally feel it. The ground is shaking underneath the weight of the truth coming out and people refusing to stay silent any longer. From corruption scandals in the Philippines to workers in Italy shutting down ports and roads in protests over Gaza to mass marches in France, Canada, and here in the UK, we have just had over 1 million people sign a petition in less than 24 hours to say no to digital IDs. I mean, let's face it, for far too long now, governments, corporations, and elites have operated like the people are blind and powerless. But right now, you can see the opposite. People everywhere are saying enough is enough. Whether it's about war, corruption, control, or freedom, the energy is the same all around the world. You know, this isn't isolated. These aren't just local protests. This is a worldwide vibration, a collective shout echoing from one nation to the next. And the elites, they fear this, you know, more than anything, because when humanity moves as one, the whole system collapses. What we are witnessing is a turning point in history. Years from now, people will look back at this and they will say, this is when the tide changed. This is when humanity stopped being passive and started standing up for what was right and for their future of their children. The world is ultimately shaking right now. The system is cracking, and the question is simple. Will you be part of it, or are you going to sit back and just watch history unfold without you, you know? But obviously, for the said reasons, this was just for entertainment. Go and sign your petition and share this video if you haven't already. I love you all. Don't forget, I'm as fictional as a dinosaur, baby.
One is China and the other is Qatar, and they are organizing an attack on Israel. Legitimacy.
Out here picking fights and trying to instigate global conflicts again, are we, BB? Talking about legitimacy. My guy, you're starving children and bombing hospitals. You provide animated cartoons of non-existent underground bunkers as evidence to justify your actions. You've bombed 6 separate countries in 2025 alone. You say you want to negotiate to get your hostages back, but you assassinate the people you're supposed to be negotiating with so you can go back to bombing the rubble that your hostages are apparently trying to survive underneath. You're attacking civilians in international waters off the coast of Greece. Not Palestine, not Israel. Greece. A flotilla armed to the teeth with rice and baby formula. And you're trying to convince the world that this is some sort of elaborate Hamas operation. Yeah, no, that sounds legitimate. Greta Thunberg and company are a sinister terrorist cell willing to risk their lives to provide Hamas access to baby formula. You're out here asking the world to believe that Hamas, operating from inside of a blockade under your control and surveillance, have somehow developed one of the most sophisticated espionage and propaganda networks in the world. But you guys, with a seemingly free, unlimited, all-you-can-eat supply to the most sophisticated and expensive weaponry and surveillance technology in the history of the world, with direct ties to the CIA, to the NSA, to MI6, and so on and so forth, and yada yada. Oh, no, me and my government are just good guys doing good things for good reasons. We don't engage in political assassinations. We never killed anyone. Yeah, he said that. Never killed anyone. Now, to be clear, I don't claim to know or believe that his government had anything to do with this specifically. But the fact that you were forced to come out and publicly deny it speaks volumes about your perceived legitimacy. The fact that you keep finding yourself making speeches to empty rooms and audiences fleeing your presence in disgust speaks volumes to your perceived legitimacy. Qatar didn't do that. China didn't do that. You did that. You earned that. There you are. There's your legitimacy.
You can slap, but can also stroke.
Did anybody notice the flight path that Netanyahu chose to take on his trip to New York from Israel today? Yeah, if you didn't know, he is in New York City today, people! But you can see that he purposely avoided France and Spain, where he is literally wanted for war crimes. But you want to know the most part about all this and why this video needs to be shared to as many people as possible? Because Netanyahu reportedly ordered his United Nations speech today to be blared on loudspeakers across the entire Gaza Strip. What the kind of demented ass that. But of course, his speech comes in the midst of several Western nations, might I mention, declaring their recognition of a Palestinian state. But Netanyahu said that Israelis will not commit national suicide. I don't even know why the he said it like that, by allowing the creation of a Palestinian state. Where the creation of an Israeli state? Somebody please show me where Israel is on the map. Oh wait, it's right there. Huh. Occupied. How about that? While so many innocent women and children suffer at the hands of what so many of you don't consider to be a very specific type of organization, of which I cannot name here on TikTok, how about free speech? But while that happens and you have no remorse for it, you choose to instead have a millions of dollars, honestly. I don't even know how much money was spent on that rally. I'm not even going to label it as a memorial because what the was that to begin with? If you don't feel that way, you can just unfollow me right now. You don't get to just dish out hatred and then somehow expect empathy. And Candace, my eyes are on you. I see exactly what's happening right now. And you have the choice, right? You have the choice to be able to do something for the people. If you're going to put to the table, put everything out onto the table. Air that but we can move on to providing a greater purpose for humanity. All of us, together, collectively. And if you don't want to contribute to that, then you could just be left behind because regardless of whether or not you want to, you will be. A great war sits right over the horizon. And I have a very good feeling that majority of us, especially in America, are not prepared for it to happen. Or we don't think that it can happen because we assume that this nation is still some kind of superpower or is invincible. Let go of that sense of false patriotism that you have, aka your ego that has been built up for you by individuals that you assume are your authority that have been forming your opinion since you've been start seeing through the bullshit so you can actually help us get back on track. There are two sides to the same motherfucking coin. It is literally not that hard to comprehend. I get it. You want to call somebody a conspiracy theorist, but guess what? Every single thing that we've been labeled as a conspiracy theorist for has somehow come out into the light. How's that work?
The Prime Minister of Denmark has just addressed the nation about the UFOs and drone incursions that have been happening as of recent, even happening now, right? So they don't know where these things are coming from, who owns them, what they are. Anti-drone equipment does not work with these objects. They can't disable them or make them or bring them down, right? Which is hella sus. And if this is anything, this could either be aliens, for one, if you want to say that, because it's like New Jersey and the other things that we've experienced around Oslo and Switzerland as well. Or this is a psychological operation to kind of get people panicking for whatever is to come out there, whether that's World War III or something more. But listen to what she has to say. It's pretty damn interesting.
Kære alle, Danmark har i de seneste dage været udsat for hybride angreb. Droner er set flere steder ved kritisk infrastruktur, militært og civilt. Det er angreb, som vi må forvente, der kan komme flere af. Og det er angreb, som har vist sårbarheder. Og det er angreb, der har til formål at skabe utryghed og splittelse. Det er angreb, der skal ryste os som mennesker og som samfund. Jeg forstår godt, at situationen rejser mange spørgsmål. Hvorfor er dronerne ikke blevet skudt ned, og hvorfor blev de ikke opdaget tidligere? Og der kommer et tidspunkt, hvor vi må kigge tilbage i de seneste dages hændelser og lære af dem. Men her og nu har vi som regering og myndigheder en altoverskyggende opgave, og det er at passe på Danmark. Og gøre os i stand til bedre at imødegå de hybride angreb så hurtigt som muligt. Og hvor er vi nu? For det første så har myndighederne hævet beredskabet, og de forbereder sig på forskellige scenarier. Det betyder blandt andet, at både forsvaret og politiet vil være mere til stede med antidronekapaciteter omkring kritisk infrastruktur i den kommende tid. Samtidig er myndighederne i tæt kontakt med vores allierede med henblik på hurtigt at styrke vores egne danske kapaciteter til at kunne opdage og til at kunne nedkæmpe droner. For det andet så har myndighederne mandat til, at fjendtlige droner kan tages ned. Men det er selvfølgelig de ansvarlige myndigheder, der skal foretage den operative vurdering i den konkrete situation, herunder af de konkrete sikkerhedsrisici. Og for det tredje så har jeg over de seneste dage været i kontakt med en række af mine europæiske kolleger. Jeg har talt med den tyske kansler, den britiske premierminister, statsministerne i vores nabolande, Sverige og Norge, og med den finske præsident. Ligesom jeg har været i tæt dialog med NATO's generalsekretær, og vi er nu fra dansk side i tæt dialog med NATO-allierede om, hvordan de i den aktuelle situation kan bistå Danmark, så vi kan beskytte og forsvare vores luftrum. De hybride angreb har ikke kun ramt Danmark. Der har for nyligt også været hændelser i både Polen, Estland og Rumænien. Hybridkrig er ikke en krig i sådan traditionel forstand. Hybride angreb skal forvirre os. De skal gøre os usikre. Og det er fra en fej fjende, som ikke tør give sig til kende. Den ene gang, der kan det være droner. En anden gang kan det være cyberangreb. Det kan være det, vi kalder disinformation. Det kan være påvirkning af valghandlinger, konspirationsteorier, man læser på nettet. Men uanset hvilken metode vi kommer til at se, så er formålet det samme. Man ønsker at destabilisere vores samfund, og man ønsker, at vi ikke længere skal have tillid til vores myndigheder. Og alt sammen så understreger de, at sikkerhedstruslen mod Europa er alvorlig, og den er reel. Det er derfor, vi igennem de seneste år har været i gang med en massiv oprustning af vores eget danske forsvar. Det er jo også derfor, vi bliver ved med at støtte Ukraine, som jeg tror kan hjælpe os i den her situation. Fordi hvis der er nogen, der har forstand på at bekæmpe droner, så er det vores venner i Ukraine, og derfor er vi selvfølgelig også nu i dialog med dem. Jeg er også nødt til at sige, at det tager tid at genoprette dansk forsvar. Det beder jeg ikke om tålmodighed med, fordi den har jeg i virkeligheden ikke selv. Men vi har travlt. Og jeg beder om forståelse for, at selvom vi har det, så kan det trods alt ikke lade sig gøre hverken fra den ene dag til den anden, eller fra det ene år til det andet. Og jeg er også nødt til at sige, og det her er særligt til nogle af partierne i Folketinget, at målet med hybride angreb, det er ikke kun at teste vores myndigheder eller vores beredskab. Det er som sagt også at se, hvordan reagerer vi som samfund, og hvordan reagerer vi politisk. Vi skal være på vagt, og hvis der er noget, der ikke fungerer, så skal det selvfølgelig rettes op. Det er vi i gang med. Men vi skal altså også bevare roen. Tiden er ikke til hurtige meldinger, eller politisk overbud, eller mistillidserklæringer til myndigheder eller til politiet. Fordi der er ikke nogen ansvarlige politikere, der vil kunne garantere den danske befolkning, at vi helt kan undgå hybride angreb. Det kan man i øvrigt ikke i noget land. Og det er nok snarere lige præcis omvendt, faktisk. At vi kommer til at se mere sabotage, flere hackerangreb, endnu flere droner, søkabler, der ødelægges, direkte angreb ind i europæiske demokratier, som vi aktuelt ser det i det lille land Moldova. At Danmark og Europa er under mere voldsomme og hyppige hybride angreb, det betragter jeg som en ny virkelighed. I næste uge der mødes alle Europas stats- og regeringschefer her i København. Vi skal diskutere europæisk forsvar og sikkerhed, herunder etablering af en egentlig dronemur. Med andre ord, Europa skal ruste sig, og vi skal opruste. Og vi skal aldrig lade os true, for sådan kan vi ikke være danskere, og sådan kan vi heller ikke være europæere. I de her timer og dage, der er vi meget vel i det, man kan kalde som den indledende fase i den umiddelbare krisehåndtering. Det har vi prøvet før i andre situationer. Og jeg har også sagt det, jeg siger nu før, at i enhver håndtering af en svær krise, der er der en risiko for, at man kommer til at begå fejl. Og det er ikke altid, at vi hurtigt kan give gode svar på de spørgsmål, der løbende vil opstå. Men som regering, der vil vi altså bestræbe os på at fortælle offentligheden det, vi kan, det samme ved myndighederne, selvfølgelig med en omtanke. Nemlig, at dem, der vil os det ondt, de lytter med på alle diskussioner, vi har med hinanden. Og selvom myndighederne ikke kan konkludere, hvem der står bag de hybride angreb mod vores lufthavne og anden kritisk infrastruktur, så kan vi i hvert fald konstatere, at der primært er ét land, der udgør en trussel for Europas sikkerhed, og det er Rusland. Og derfor til sidst en vigtig pointe. Der er ikke noget europæisk land, der kan forsvare sig alene mod Rusland. Det kan ikke engang Ukraine, som ellers tappert har kæmpet i mere end 3 år nu. Og det er jo derfor, vi har vores NATO-alliance. Det er derfor, vi er i gang med at udbygge den europæiske forsvarsindustri. Og det er derfor, vi er i gang med en historisk oprustning her i Danmark. Og de seneste dages begivenheder understreger kun, hvor vigtigt det er, at vi handler, men at vi gør det sammen med andre i Europa og i NATO. Tak fordi du lyttede med.
So we got aliens, World War III, psychological warfare. It's either of these or it's all three in one, mate. I don't know what's going on. We just know that there's more things happening. But holy moly, we have Poland, Switzerland, the UK and Heathrow Airport had some stuff as of recent, which people aren't talking about either. These incursions happen in New Jersey and multiple other countries as well. This is something that is ongoing. We don't know where they are, who they are, where they're coming from, where they're disappearing to. You can't take photos of them because they don't show up on images and stuff like that. It kind of, for some reason, you can't identify these things. Anti-drone warfare equipment doesn't work, so you can't disable them or bring them down. And they're just moseying on around. So who knows?
I wanna be the very best, as no one ever was. To catch them is my favorite test, to train them is my car. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. Each looking mind to understand the power that's inside. Walking bus, gotta catch up, it's you and me. I know it's my destiny. Oh, you're my best friend in a world we must defend. Our hearts so true, our courage will pull us through. You teach me and I'll teach you. Gotta catch 'em all.
Reason number 77, we're living in a simulation. What if I told you the whole Charlie Kirk tragedy already happened exactly 27 years ago? This is gonna f your mind. So there's a movie from 1998 called Snake Eyes starring Nicolas Cage, in which a political figure named Charles Kirkland, that's his actual name in the movie, gets by a sniper in the neck in the exact same spot as Charlie Kirk at a public event. Now, in the opening scene of the movie, there's a sign for this event that shows us it also took place on September 10th, the same day it happened, during a boxing event headlined by a boxer named Tyler the Executioner. Tyler Robinson is being accused of committing the execution in real life. During the scene, Cage is heard asking about his lucky number, while we see someone holding up a giant 7. Recently, Elon Musk announced that every spacecraft launched in 2026 will bear the number 77 as a tribute to Charlie Kirk. Why 77? I don't know. Maybe someone can tell me. If it wasn't obvious enough, there's also this massive all-seeing eye on a blimp or something watching the entire sequence of events go down. That's because the movie is called Snake Eyes, and 2025 also happens to be the year of the snake. Promotional posters for the film feature the tagline, "Believe everything except your eyes." Oh, and was also filmed in the Trump Hotel in Atlantic City. Believe everything except your eyes. I don't even know how else anyone could possibly explain this. Simulation confirmed.
What? I never knew this. Hey ChatGPT, what is the fastest decreasing religion in the whole world right now? Please answer in one word.
Hey, Lily J. Christianity.
Wow. So, what is the fastest growing religion in the world right now?
Islam.
This is just insane. What do you guys think?
You're going to want to pay attention to this post, especially if you have kids. 911 spamming. A man was over on the dark web, and they are saying that what they're going to start doing is spamming all of 911 so that they're going to report false break-ins in one location. So while all the police are running over there and all of EMS is running to these different locations, they're going to be coming to a neighborhood, probably near us all, and doing the actual job. So 911 won't know what to respond to and what not to respond to anymore. I think that is literally insane.
But this is a warning to America and a warning to the rest of the world. I was just put on something very serious, and the second I heard it, my heart dropped because it made so much sense. But basically, right now, in the dark web, organized crime gangs are coming out with a software called 911 spam, and the idea is simple. Basically, they're going to spam 911 lines with different calls like, hey, there's a kidnapping at CVS, hey, there's a shooting at Walmart, hey, at this address there's a home break-in, whatever. And while these calls are all coming into your local 911, they're going to be breaking into a house near you, they're going to be breaking into a jewelry store near you, whatever. 911 won't know what to respond to, and It's absolutely insane. So stay ready, stay prepared. God bless America. Make sure your family and make sure everyone is prepared for this because
It is a software. So, yeah, that's pretty scary stuff. They claim they can't tell where the bots on this app are actually coming from. So this is pretty intense.
U.S. military is preparing options for military strikes inside Venezuela targeting alleged drug traffickers. This is new reporting from NBC News. 4 sources say the Pentagon is drawing up plans for possible drone strikes on drug labs and cartel leaders operating within Venezuela's borders. It would mark a major escalation in the Trump administration's campaign against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who was indicted on drug trafficking charges back in 2020. Trump has not yet approved any strikes, and U.S. officials are even communicating with Venezuela through Middle Eastern intermediaries. Still, with thousands of American troops, ships, and F-35 jets now deployed in the region, officials say that the military is looking at all options. The administration has already struck several Venezuelan boats in recent weeks, though it's not known whether those boats actually had drugs on board. Maduro denies the allegations, accusing the U.S. of trying to force him from power, and previous reporting has been that that is the goal of the Trump administration, regime change in Venezuela. Analysts warn that if the U.S. does strike inside Venezuela, the fallout could be massive, triggering diplomatic protests, political crackdowns, and further fueling anti-American sentiment around the world. Spread the word and listen to the Midas Touch podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for more.
Well, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk being in the Epstein files and flight logs makes 100% sense, seeing as how they're two of the most evil motherfuckers in the world outside of Epstein. And literally, Epstein was obsessed with DNA research and genetically modifying humans through God knows what. So it makes sense that Rocket Boy and Space in the files. But what makes it inherently evil is that these people are in control of America right now. And can you honestly think that if Epstein wasn't alive, he wouldn't be up there with Trump? If you don't know what I'm talking about, there have been flight logs released by the House Democrats that clearly show Peter Thiel, the day Peter Thiel and Elon Musk decided to go on over to Epstein Island, and tons of other transactions for money. And I don't know. I think the Democrats are playing the long game, but they need to put belt to ass. I don't know if they're playing, they're teasing. They want Trump to know he's not really standing on hit no. But please, don't give us a beacon of hope. Do this. Stand on business. Because for their name to be in these and transaction records and flight log records, because think about it like this, there's no way to fabricate this information when it comes to the exact dates, times, and bank account information, which in 2001, 2019, old motherfuckers kept their paper. They kept documents, receipts, tax records. Oh boy, and do they got those motherfucking receipts? Yeah.
Imagine you're in prison, struggling, and the state offers you a few dollars. If you sell your blood, you agree because what else can you do? The blood is then sold overseas, barely screened, and thousands of people die. It began in 1964 at the Cummins unit in Arkansas. By the late 70s and 80s, it had become a big business. A private company, Health Management Associates, paid prisoners pennies to the dollar for plasma they sold to brokers for $50 a unit. That blood went to Canada, Europe, and Asia, ending up at treatments for hemophiliacs and other patients who had no idea came from prison donors. Screening was weak or non-existent. Prisoners with hepatitis or HIV risk were allowed to donate. Some bribed their way back into the program even after being banned for having diseases. In 1982, the FDA warned that prison blood was high risk for AIDS, but Arkansas kept exporting it anyway, sometimes without disclosing its source. Investigations found fake records, unlicensed staff, and contracts ignored. But the program went on because of political allies. Prison director Art Lockhart had powerful political ties to people like Senator Knox Nelson and banking and political contractors like HMA President Leonard Dunn that helped cover up or delayed and self-inflicted consequences. The scandal didn't end until 1994, making Arkansas the last state to outlaw prison plasma cells. By then, thousands had contracted hepatitis C, and hundreds were likely infected with HIV. Victims in Canada won compensation, but Arkansas never admitted responsibility. This wasn't just a health disaster, it was a lesson in power. The ruling class feels no shame in turning human bodies into profit, and when lives get destroyed because of it, they bury the truth instead of paying the price.
Is sharing secrets that airlines won't tell you.
You might want to think about ordering something other than coffee or tea.
We went to Air Hollywood and met up with flight attendant Jamila Hardwick, who says her colleagues never order warm beverages when they fly.
The thing about the coffee and the tea is that the pipes are rarely cleaned.
Airlines are only required to disinfect and flush the water tanks 4 times a year. Fine, no coffee. How about Diet Coke? She says flight attendants have an issue with pouring Diet Coke because it fizzes up more than any other soda.
I don't know what it is about the chemistry in Diet Coke and us being 40,000 feet in the air, but by the time it takes us to pour one Diet Coke, we could have 3 other drinks poured.
Another secret why you shouldn't ask a flight attendant to help you store your luggage.
We do not get paid until the boarding door is closed. If we put that bag in the bin and we get hurt, we do not get to write it off as an on-job injury.
Next, this dirty little secret about blankets and pillows.
Bring your own. These get washed, but we're not sure how great they get washed, right? Same for the pillows. They will take the lining off the pillow and put a new one, but you still have the pillow that's in there that's dirty.
And speaking of germs, our flight attendant says that everything you've heard about your tray table is true.
Oh my gosh, this is disgusting. When cleaners come on, they don't have time to wipe down every individual tray, so it's best wet ones. Please bring them on. Please clean off your trays before you put anything on here.
An airline industry spokesperson tells Inside Edition the safety of passengers is the #1 priority, and that includes providing clean drinking water and cabins. Finally, this flight attendant said,
Talk to us about the story of the raid in Belize, the gifted computers, and how John McAfee acquires some pretty dark, deep secrets that powerful people would actually be motivated to kill him in prison.
So John's living in Belize, and he gets a visit to his property from 2 representatives from the government asking if he would consider giving a $2 million donation for certain perks. He declined. A week later, They came back, they sent the gang suppression unit, and they raided his property. They kept him and all persons on the property handcuffed, and they destroyed his lab, and they shot one of his dogs. They also arrested him, saying that he had an illegal firearm, but he later produced the license for it, and they dropped those charges. The week after that was when those representatives came back and asked him if he changed his mind about his donation, and he said no. What he wanted to find was just evidence that he was set up for that raid. So what John decided to do was gift laptops to high-level people within the government. And so on these laptops was key logging information and spyware. They happily accepted these gifts, and now John is collecting all of the goods. This went on for a few months, collecting this data. He hired women to parse through the information just to find things related to him. And instead, he found out about drug trafficking, human trafficking, murder for hire from the highest levels within the government.
The quote I got from him in an interview he gave is he said, "I didn't find evidence of the raid, but I found out the Minister of National Defense for Belize was the largest drug trafficker in Central America, and the Minister of Immigration was the biggest human trafficker. He had evidence of deep U.S. involvement in corruption through intergovernmental communication that these computers were a part of." I could understand that if there is a network of traffickers, people within the U.S. government communicate with the people in the Belize government.
They say the mirror is for safety, that without it you won't work. You won't eat, you won't move. But haven't we already been counted? A number on our backs since birth, a passport stamped, a ledger kept, a tax taken, a toll paid. So why a new mirror now? Because the old cage wasn't tight enough. Because too many slipped between the bars. They point the finger at the stranger, at the child, at the refugee. But look closer, the stranger already has a card, the child already has a record. Fingerprints in files, faces in databases. This isn't about them, it's about us. It's about locking the door from the inside so no one leaves without permission. And here's the quiet joke, if the mirror replaces your number, then why do they still take the tithe? Why still demand the national toll, the weekly blood from your bread? If a new key truly opened the gate, the old chains would fall away. But they don't, they stack the locks. They double the weight, they laugh as you carry both. Above every mirror sits an eye, not the gentle kind, but the one that never blinks. They say it is for your protection, that the eye watches for thieves, for imposters, for danger in the night. But the eye does not close, it learns your walk. It memorizes your face, it knows the rhythm of your breath. The mirror is not just to show who you are, it is to feed the eye. And once the eye knows you, it will not forget. The mirror is not only for watching, it is for sorting, for opening one gate and closing another. They will tell you, without the mirror you cannot work, you cannot eat, you cannot move. The gate will not swing for the unmarked, and the world behind it will look brighter, cleaner, easier, but only for those who bend the knee. Those who carry no mirror, no mark, will be left in the shadows, their voices unheard, their steps uncounted. The divide has always been the plan, not to protect, but to separate, to draw a line between the obedient and the unbroken. They built their gates of brass and glass, they forged their mirrors of code and wire, but there is a gate they cannot touch, it does not glow on their maps. It does not hum in their machines. It lives where silence meets fire, where the breath becomes light, where the true name cannot be copied. Those who find it step through without sound. No luck can hold, no chain can follow. The hidden gate waits, not above, not below, but within.
I cannot stop watching this petition rise, guys. The numbers are going crazy. Over 1.5 million signatures already, and we're not even 48 hours into it. If we keep pushing with this, we could honestly make this the biggest petition in UK history. To put that into perspective, right, the biggest petition ever was about Brexit, and that was just over 6 million signatures. We are already a quarter of the way there in just under 2 days, right? Think about that. Now, most politicians only get into the UK with about maybe 20,000 to 40,000 votes in their constituency, right? Even prime ministers come into power on party votes in single-digit millions, right? So 1.5 million people across the country unite on one issue this fast. This isn't just a petition. This is a movement, you know. That's more than the entire political parties can muster up in years of campaigning, like, you know, and the system knows it. That's why they're already trying to twist the words, play down what a digital ID really is, and distract you with anything else they can throw at you, because they can't hide this number from anyone. You know, the people are awake and the people are speaking. So yeah, let's push it further if we can, beautiful people. Share this video, sign the petition, show your neighbours, show your friends, show your granddad. Just get this video out. The link is in the description. Let's make this the biggest petition the UK has ever seen, because we are not complying to this digital ID. We are free, and we are here to prove it, beautiful people. Obviously, though, for the sensory reasons, this was just for entertainment, and I was fictional as a dinosaur, baby.
I made the mistake yesterday of thinking Jelly Roll and Kevin James were the same person. But that's not what's going on. But I figured out what's going on because they always tell us. They have to. Have a listen.
I didn't recognize how much alike we looked until that happened either.
Sure you didn't.
And when I woke up the next morning, every headline in America says, Kevin James and Jelly Roll could be twins. And the kid in me was like, yes! And then I was like, hold on now.
Yeah.
Are they saying I look older, he looks young?
No.
Are they saying he looks fat or I look skinny? I wasn't sure if we were being complimented or insulted.
You look so amazing. First of all, I could be your father. Second, and I might be. I don't know.
I swear, I wouldn't be surprised. Hey, Mom, we need to talk about this.
Yes, Mom, we do.
You see, they tell you, and when they tell you, they flash their little symbolism. You know, their little symbolism. You know, their little symbolism. But why would they just come out and say that they're father and son? Because they don't want you to know how related all of Hollywood and the government is. Case in point, Hugh Jackman, who used to be Keith Whitley, the country singer, look that video up, is the father of Justin Timberlake. And they don't tell you because they don't want you to know. I mean, look at those mugs. Look that video up. And you know what else they don't tell you? That the king of rock and roll is the dad of the queen of pop. I mean, look at those mugs. Look at that video up. Kind of like they don't openly tell you that Tom Hanks was related to Lincoln and looks an awful lot like a Rockefeller, and how every single president all share the same bloodline. all linking back to King John of England. And I mean, all of them, the Bushes, the Clintons, the Carters, even the Obamas, they don't want you to know that the people on TV are all related, because then you would realize that they're controlling your mind. But of course, all this for entertainment purposes. People, I'm sure Kevin James and, Jelly Roll just look alike. That's it. Just like Tom Hanks coincidentally looks like a Rockefeller. The Rockefellers who started the school system, who indoctrinated all of us, and also started the medical system in school, and wasted all of us. Entertainment only, of course.
All new at 10, there is a mysterious underground hazard St. Louis leaders don't want you to know about.
Yeah, it's underneath some of our busiest sidewalks, where Fox Files investigator Chris Hayes reveals the secret leaders don't want out.
It's right under where I'm walking here on Washington Avenue. You can't see it, but I'm walking right now on a secret underground room with a glass ceiling.
There's some serious risk downtown that's not only just been ignored, but really covered up.
Derek Langen-Eckert knows because he fell down this hole when the sidewalk collapsed.
All of a sudden, I was in this huge cavern, right there. It was almost kind of surreal, looking up at that hole.
It was 2017 during the Rise Up Beer Festival. The street was closed. You can see the sidewalks behind the booths were used for heavy equipment, like a generator, and the forklift Langen-Eckert was driving that day to move beer.
And this was the third time that day I drove the forklift up to our booth. Turned around, was coming back, and there was a little girl and her mom, walking in front of me. So I was, I stopped for a minute. I just can't imagine that little girl and her mom, they're standing 10 feet away from me. Right there, the kegs shot in the air, they exploded.
Despite breaking his back, Langen-Eckert is doing well today. He owns Alpha Brewing Company near Tower Grove Park. His business is growing, but the hole he fell through still remains. Covered with plywood and surrounded by a fence. Even more surprising, he discovered through his lawsuit against the city, there are more hidden rooms all the way down Washington Avenue.
Walk on a sidewalk thinking that it's a suspended bridge. It just wouldn't cross your mind.
Court records show these pictures taken inside the room he fell into. You can see the ceiling in the hidden basement room is made of block glass, made that way in the early 1900s so shopkeepers could use the natural light. You can see the more than 100 years of corrosion in the thin layer of concrete laying right over it. Fox 2 got access to another example, this hidden room under a sidewalk near 14th and Washington. Court records show a construction company in 2001 looked into filling 15 hidden basements. When the city apparently took no action, an engineer wrote this letter addressed to Otis Williams, who then headed the St. Louis Development Corporation, or SLDC. It says, "We were directed not to contact any building owners for further investigation or correspondence as to the conditions, responsibilities, or liabilities related to the basement extensions. There was to be no publicity related to the basement extensions. There was to be no publicity related to any potential problems or adverse issues."
Knowing that there are people that scared as hell who come to the dentist, why would you even make those type of jokes? So it's a dentist that's going viral right now from Los Angeles. Her name is Harleen Grewal at Skyline Smiles. She has some very tasteless things to say, and now it's coming back to bite her in the ass. She basically said when people come to her office that don't support our president, she doesn't give them the best experience. She said while she's doing their procedure, she cuts back on their laughing gas. Now, mind you, she also said that this was a joke, but I don't think you should joke like that. You have a lot of people that are terrified to go to the dentist, and you're playing like this? You probably don't believe me, right? Look at this. Listen to this.
Skyline Smiles. I have a wall of fame. I have pictures of many Republican leaders, elected officials in the community, and once in a while I get patients that come into my office, and when they see the pictures, you think their butt was on fire. They jump off and take off as if Trump was coming in the room. It was so much better in my office when the dentist stayed home during their best time. I wish they still did. So I have a secret hat I use sometimes that says, "Make your smile great again." So I wear that when I work with my patients.
Listen.
So when they look horrified or complain, I quietly cut back on the laughing gas.
Listen.
And say, "You got this. It's not as bad as you think it is."
Now I'm gonna ask you this. You listen to that whole thing. Do you think that was a joke? Mind you, it could have been a joke. A nasty joke, but it could have been a joke. But I'm asking, do you think that was a joke? And in the practice that she's in, do you think that was professional? That's what I want to know. I'm out.
Did a dive on Erica Kirk, and I learned some interesting things, like how she started a philanthropy called the Romanian Angels that gives gifts to kids that worked with the US military over in Romania, and this is published directly to Erica's page. This is Erica's maiden name, Erica Franceby. And at the end of the video, she gives a shout out to Colonel Busher. Colonel Busher has kind of been implicated in maybe sort of stealing some Romanian kids and taking them to his brothel on more than one occasion, so that's an interesting contact to have with your philanthropy. Find this video if you want to pursue that rabbit hole further. But let's just get back to Erica. She was born in 1988 in Ohio. When she got into college, I think she started her nonprofit. She was a college basketball athlete. This is from her own website. And she double majored in poli-sci, international relations, legal studies, and biblical studies. But the part I'm particularly interested in is that she worked in the entertainment industry as a model, actress, and casting director. If Erica was a casting director, who was she casting, and what were they being cast for? Given that this is the part of her career where she won Miss Arizona in the Miss USA pageant contest, which is a Trump-owned contest, it seems to me like there's a chance that she would have been doing casting directing for Donald Trump or one of his businesses. But no public record exists of which people she cast or where those casted by her went to work. It all just feels pretty weird to me that she was doing the Romanian Angels thing while being crowned Miss Arizona, all in 2012, and then she claims that she was a casting director, And it's just sort of dark in there. There's no records of who she cast or where they got cast to, but that's like 5 years of her life until she went back to school and started a podcast and became huge in business and a minister and got set up to meet Charlie Kirk, possibly by Donald Trump. We still don't really know if that's the case, but since she kind of worked for Donald Trump, maybe in that gap, we really don't know. Maybe Erica is really a good girl, and if so, I feel bad for throwing these allegations, but who has the most to benefit from Charlie Kirk's death? Who just inherited the entirety of a $500 million organization with major political power? I think it's pretty understood that DJT was getting it on with a couple of his models back in the day. If that ever happened with Erica, that's a pretty good case of what you'd call dual loyalty, I suppose. If Erica starts speaking about how the audio forensics are showing that the triangulation of where the bullet had to have been shot from is not where Tyler Robinson was, then I retract everything I had bad to say about Erica. But if she keeps her mouth shut about this, and you know damn well that this is coming across her schema, she is seeing this, then she may very well be compromised.
It's a pretty easy case. He lied. You saw my clips of it. He lied. Yes. No. He didn't say, well, in my opinion, he didn't do a lot of things because maybe he should have, but I don't think he could because he lied. That was a very important question that he was asked. And he wanted to be specific. But he didn't. The only thing that happened to him, he didn't think he'd get caught. I think there'll be others. I mean, they're corrupt. These were corrupt, radical left Democrats, who Comey essentially was even worse than the Democrats. I would say the Democrats are better than Comey. No, there'll be others. Look, that's my opinion. They weaponized the Justice Department like nobody in history. What they've done is terrible. And so I hope frankly, I hope there are others. You can't let this happen to a country. That's what they tried to do, right? They did it with me for 4 years. They went after me. They went after me for 4 years, and that doesn't include the 4 great years that we had in the White House. So when I ran it from 2016 when we won, it began before I got to office. You know that. Wait a minute. Before I came to office, I started hearing rumors about Russia. I said, what the hell do I have to do with Russia? Nothing. And then it got worse and worse. And some of the fakers, not you, but some of the fakers picked it up and they loved it. And we went through a long time with that. And despite that, we had a great first term.
All right, everyone, gather around, pat yourselves on the back. We called this, all of us, we called this 8 months ago. So I did my Elon Musk series like 8 months ago, and I uploaded it onto YouTube too, so you don't have to watch like each separate part on TikTok. And in that series, we talked about some of Jeffrey's tech connections, including his connection with Elon Musk. And we know it goes much further than anything being said in this article. We do learn new information in this article, but this is not the whole of Jeffrey's relationship with Elon Musk. Because in this article, we are learning that Elon Musk tentatively planned to go on a trip to Jeffrey's Island back in 2014. We don't know if he actually went, but we know he was planning to go there. But it goes much further than Elon Musk tentatively planning to take a trip to the island that cannot be confirmed, because we know what can be confirmed. We know that Elon Musk admitted that he took Tallulah Riley to Jeffrey's Manhattan home to visit long after he had been sitting pretty on the registry. Keep in mind, Elon Musk is a father at this time. Also know that Elon Musk's brother, Kimball Musk, dated one of Jeffrey's ex-girlfriends. We have even figured out who the most likely woman that Kimball Musk dated was. I'll put that video in the description. But in this series, specifically in this series, we talked about how the middleman who was getting Elon a deal with the Saudi government to take Tesla private, the third-party middleman, was Jeffrey. And through learning that information, we learned that Jeffrey was advising Tesla. We also learned that one of Jeffrey's victims turned co-conspirators, Nadia Marcinkova, was given a 2012 tour of SpaceX and was seen wearing a SpaceX t-shirt. Elon's connection with Jeffrey goes so much further than a tentative trip to the island. That may or may not have happened. I don't know if it happened or not. I wouldn't be shocked, but it goes so much further. Jeffrey and Elon Musk were intertwined on many levels for many years, long after Jeffrey was already on the registry and Elon Musk was touting himself as a wonderful father. And back in June, maybe earlier, we learned that Peter Thiel, every time he makes money, Jeffrey's estate also makes money due to investments that Jeffrey made into Peter Thiel back in 2014. Whenever we talked about it, we made this graph. The place that Jeffrey made his investment into was Valor Ventures. We've long known the connection with Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon currently has over 15 hours of footage, interview footage, that he held and he conducted with Jeffrey, because Steve Bannon was working with Jeffrey to rehabilitate his reputation. He was trying to make him palatable to the public because Jeffrey and Donald's ties were beginning to be questioned, and Donald Trump was the sitting president of the United States. Steve Bannon was even trying to get Jeffrey a 60-minute slot, a 60 minutes interview, but Steve Bannon will not release this footage because he claims it's attorney-client privilege. But neither Jeffrey nor Steve Bannon have ever been attorneys. And we know that Steve Bannon was actively advising Jeffrey while being an aide and working closely with Donald Trump in his first term. So this is all just confirming things that we already have discussed and things we already knew, other than, of course, the fact that we did not know that Elon Musk was planning to take a trip to the island, but I think many of us could conclude that is very within the realm of possibility. 10 out of 10 work to the Oversight Committee. Keep it coming.
Have you wondered who Erica Kirk is? And I mean really wondered who Erica Kirk is. Because if you have, then you first need to start at who her mother is, aka Lori Francevay. So Lori is the principal chief executive officer and founder of E3 Tech Group, okay? It is a company specializing in computer and network security. A company whose clients include the Department of Defense and NASA. But she's also the founder of not only AZ Tech, but also a subsidiary named G Tech. As for her husband, aka Erica's father, his name is Kent. Yes, that is his real name. It is alleged, let me just make that very clear, that he was involved with isn't real related divisions, if you know, you know, through AZ Tech subcontracting for the defense contractor Raytheon. Also, you should know they obviously have a special little partner. I'm sure you can guess who that is, but if you can't, let me just put this up on the screen for you real quick so you can read. Just read that for me real quick. This is on E3 Tech's website. So just, read that for me real quick as well. I'm not going to read it out loud, obviously. But I'm sure you get the point that I'm trying to make here. And if you don't, hold on. This is what E3 Tech has labeled as their focus on their website. What? You're telling me Erica Kirk's mother is the CEO of... Who would have thought? Actually, I would, considering the nonprofit that Erica Kirk actually set up. It was called Everyday Heroes Like You, Inc. If you don't know about that one, you should probably go look into that one. I'm not even sure I can 100% talk about that. But it's been tax exempt since 2009. But then again, there's so much more to this entire situation, because when you just so happen to look into a movie called Snake Eyes, well, actually, I'm going to save that for the next video so my algorithm doesn't get suppressed. Because that's a lot into one video, but I definitely will be posting that video either tonight or tomorrow morning, or you could just go look into it for yourself. It's actually rather intriguing. I never really connected the dots, but once people started to and I started looking into it deeper, I was like, huh, is that a coincidence?
Did you know other people around 9/11 who already were thinking like this? Like maybe reality as presented to us is not entirely real.
People would believe things only so far.
Yes.
And so I would back off and I say, you know what, we're just gonna focus on two things. And if you can explain those, I'll submit to the official story.
But explain these anomalies first.
Building 7 in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Just help me out there. I've got to believe that the Pentagon is the most video protected, surveilled building in the history of the known universe, right?
Turns out not.
Well, I'm saying
I think we just have two videos from the
parking kiosk. Yeah. So that's the thing. And then
that is weird, isn't it?
Yeah. And then building 7. It's just you can't watch that and say that it's the result of a fire that burned for 5 hours on 2 floors. You can't sell that to me. For years, that was always met with that is disrespecting the victims. And I'm like, how is that disrespecting the fallen heroes? How?
A person like you takes that no excuses to the extreme, because you were placed in a position that didn't let you have any excuses for any hardships you faced. So if you failed, there was no excuses. You just got up. If you ran into any hardship, there was no excuses for anything you had control over. And that is why you're in the position that you're in now, because you held yourself to a standard that these motherfuckers could never do, because they're sitting there trying to make excuses. Because you're here to break generational curses, you have no time to make excuses, and you understand that. That is why you continuously keep the ball rolling. You continuously make sure you're in alignment. And if you fall, you don't make any excuses on why you failed. You just get back up, because you understand your mission doesn't have time for excuses. And believe me when I tell you, they hate the fact that you don't make excuses, because it places them on blast, because they're sitting within their stagnant energies, making excuses on why they can't progress, when a motherfucker like you, who has the same cards dealt, is progressing at a constant rate, because you understand there's no excuses in the journey.
C'est un risque pas. Ce sont les bouteilles de champagne qui arrivent. Quittez. Le virus. L'argent, c'est la clé du monde. Quand tu n'as pas l'argent, tu n'es rien. Quand tu n'as pas l'argent, tu dois l'appliquer. Parce qu'il est là de l'administration. Il est là de l'émotion. Il est là de mater l'argent.
This girl was having a bad day at work, but a random guy came in and did something unexpected that made her day 1,000 times better. So when he noticed the sad girl, he quickly knew what to do. He asked her what the best cake was, which also happened to be her favorite.
What's your favorite cake?
I think the Oreo is probably the best.
Then he asked her name so he could add a special note.
What was your name? I'm sorry.
Grace.
Grace? Okay, thanks, Grace. It's funny, the person that I'm getting it for, her name is Grace also. You can say, Grace, you're amazing. How about that?
After paying for the cake, he called her over and gave it to her. Her reaction said it all.
I lied. My neighbor's name is not Grace, and she's not going on a trip. This is for you.
Turns out the cake was for her the whole time, just to cheer her up and make her smile again.
I just made it up.
Did he do a great job?
Can I kick off?
7 minutes into stoppage time. Bruno Fernandes steps up.